I continue? Yes. Okay, I was waiting for Senator Musube to sit. Yeah. The chair of the Senate Committee of Education, Senator Agnes and Senator Musube, my colleagues, thank you. My colleagues present and the officials from the ministry, KNEC, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Allow me on behalf of the CEO Teacher Service Commission, Dr. Nancy Macharia, to present to this committee the teacher preparedness for competency-based curriculum this afternoon as a way we work as a team. I want to begin by the introduction on the Teacher Service Commission. All of you know that Teacher Service Commission, according to the Constitution, the national now, further the Constitution under the section 11E of the this morning about the issue of the professional development, which I will be explaining further. CBC, being a new system, is designed by KNEC team, and it was launched by the ministry in 2017, and it is designed to emphasize the significance of developing skills, as Director KNEC indicated, and the piloting was done in 2017 in May and September across the 47 counties, and the actual implementation began in 2018 in the preschool, and grade 1, grade 2, and 3, with other grades implemented gradually. What is the role of TSC then in CBC implementation? One, TSC is in charge of training teachers on CBC. Two, TSC also facilitates career progression and professional development for teachers. Three, it monitors the conduct and performance of teachers in the teaching service. And the fourth one, it establishes and maintains a teaching service adequate to the needs of the public in the learning institution in Kenya, so that we make sure we are providing teachers that can be able to make sure teaching and learning is occurring. What are the objectives of CBC training? One is we equip the curriculum support officers, and I'm mentioning this in line with what Chair you asked in the morning. CBC champions. CBC champions are teachers that have more skills apart from what we are offering through a program offered by British Council on core skills. They are the ones we call CBC champions. And teachers with the requisite knowledge, skills, attitudes, and the competence in effective implementation of the competence-based curriculum, competence-based assessment, and ICT integration. So those aspects are the ones that we take teachers through. The second one is that we enhance the teachers' skills to facilitate differentiated learning to ensure that all learners are fully engaged in learning. That is both in the special needs and in the regular learning. Then we also provide common understanding on the concepts that are there for the CBC curriculum, for the CBA, and for the ICT integration in the teaching and learning. And therefore, we also do the understanding on the implementation of the grade 4 guidelines on the new content and the new learning areas. Why did I put grade 4 guidelines? When we reach grade 4, we have to develop new guidelines that are going to be used now from grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6. So that now the teachers will be able to know exactly what is happening. And also, we build them on the issue of understanding the new areas. So then, what has TSC done? From the training in 2019, when we started, when training was handed over to Teacher Service Commission, in 2019 and January 2020, what have we been able to do? We have carried out the following trainings. We did a training which was conducted between the 5th and the 26th of April 2019. We did another one on 13th to 23rd August, another one in December, and another one in 2nd to 5th of January 2020. These are the kind of trainings we did between 2019 and 2020. And who are we targeting in the trainings? One, we were targeting the curriculum support officers, we were targeting the CBC champions, the end teachers, and the teachers. And the teachers, we are saying, they are both from the public and the private. The government decided that we need to train even the private school teachers because they are handling a Kenyan child, not a private child. The only thing that was agreed is that the private institutions will provide to their teachers lunch. But the facilitation and the materials, it is the government that catered for. And that was through the budgets that the committee approved. What was the training content? Because you did ask in the morning if the training was shallow. Now, this is the training content that we began with. In April and August, we made sure teachers were well built on overview of the basic education curriculum framework. That booklet, the one you have, that booklet, the teachers were taken through that booklet in details. Then interpretation of the curriculum designs. You are given copies of the curriculum designs. The teachers were taken through how to interpret that design. Then the learning outcomes and values. Because remember, before we were dealing with objectives. I think Dr. Zan, you know, by the end of the lesson, that we were dealing with objectives. Now, we have what we call learning objective, learning outcomes. Teachers were taught what is a learning outcome, what is the context of a learning outcomes, how should it be done, how is it written, how is it done in class, how do you check it is achieved in class. So that is what is that. And then values. It is not only them learning about peace, love, and unity. No, they were taught on how to inculcate values in the learners. They were also taught about the learning experiences. The learning design shows suggested learning experiences. Now they were taught how they can even make theirs. Because the ones in the design are suggested. So they can use the ones in the design and also suggest theirs. So there is room, not only what is there, but they can also think out of the box. Then there was key inquiry questions. That the key inquiry question basically guides what is in the lesson. So that the learners are allowed to think through. They were also taught about the professional documents, the schemes of work, the lesson plan, all those, they were taught all those. They were taught about ICT integration in CBC, how to utilize the green devices in the school. That is why for us, the 1,000 schools without the gadgets for us is a disaster as a commission. Because other schools are moving with their work. Well, these are not moving. So if you can help us to make sure they have, we will really be excited. Because ICT integration is a key issue. Then they were also taken through competence-based assessment. And then they were also taken through action research. And I want to say, competence-based assessment is provided by the Kenya National Examination Council. Kenya National Examination Council is the one which prepares the content. The other content which I've talked up there is prepared by KICD. And then the action research. We want our teachers to begin doing classroom action research, to be able to come up with the decisions informed with what they are actually learning. So these are the key areas. And Chair, now you can be able to tell me if teachers are taken through this, if it is a shallow content. Sure. And you have the design. You can prove from the design, you can also prove from the basic education curriculum framework, if that is true. I think that can be sorted. Then, during the, again in December, we took them through the pillars of the competency-based. We took them through the overview of the designs, the key inquiry questions, professional documents. Even we included the IEPs for the special needs and lesson plan and all that, and then the guidelines and the rollout of how it is going to be. And the number of teachers trained, Chair, if you can look at my presentation at the end, let me just get mine. If you look at my presentation at the end, we have given you the data of the teachers that have been trained. If you look at table 1 on this document, the one with the slides, the one with the slides. If you look at the one with the slides at the end, you'll find in table 1 we have included the number of teachers that we have trained. If you go to the TSC presentation, we have the table showing all the counties and the teachers that were trained in each of the counties. And we raised this because we wanted you to see that all counties in Kenya are captured. And when you look at all if you look at all the tables, they are indicating the number of teachers we have trained. So it is an indication that we can be able to prove that actually training took place in all the counties in the country. Then in the year 2020 in December, we did train again the CSOs and the CBC champions. We did train the SNE champions and the teachers in the regular schools. Then the training content, we went again higher because the training content was foundational. We moved from one level to another. And we were able to take them through, if you look at this bit, we were able to take through them competence-based assessment framework, where they were able to do authentic assessment, authentic task, integrated assessment, and did practical aspects. Then they did also tools and the competencies. And lastly, they were sensitized on the public service scheme. You see, as a commission, we want also our teachers to know what they are required to do when they retire. So we did all this in December 2020. And we trained the teachers in that period. We trained 127,512 teachers who are trained in the competence-based and ICT integration and in mathematics. And the data is shown in the tables 3 to 8. If you look at all the tables from number 3 to 8, that is, they are showing the numbers of the teachers that were trained.
What percentage of all teachers is it?
In the primary we have about 213,000 teachers. So in 2019, we actually trained all the teachers that are teaching grade 1 to grade 2 and grade 3. Remember, grade 4, 5, and 6 came later. Yes.
Oh,
yeah. So in 2021, then we were able to train again in 2021 this year. And we targeted even the teacher educators, that is the ones that are handling now the new diploma, the teacher trainings. And we trained them on a number of areas. You can see personal, reflective, ethical educator, all that. And the training content that was for the tutors is there. I don't need to read all of it. You can see it's very well analyzed. And at that period of 2021, that time we trained about 93,848 teachers and educators who are trained across the country, and the table 7 is showing on this document. And what we are saying is that we trained 1,023 curriculum support officers in the country and 388 SNE curriculum support officers. They have been trained, and they are very instrumental in the training of teachers from grade 1 to grade 5. Now, this target group have been trained 5 times. 5 times every holiday. So, if somebody is trained really 5 times, you can't tell us that the person is not trained. And these CSOs, both the SNE and the regular CSOs, after we do the training, I want this to be very clear, Chair. After we finish the 5 days training, they are required on a weekly basis to go to the schools within their zones to offer professional support to the teachers as they teach. And they do it through an institutionalized method we call lesson observation, which is even embedded in TPAD. So somebody cannot take it for granted because it is measured. So they visit school every week, they will sit as the teachers teach, and they move from one class to the other, and they help the teacher to continually conceptualize what they were trained. So the training is not a one-off, it is a continuous training. So it should be known that the training that we have been offering, it is not a one-off training, but it's a continuous training, helping the teacher to be able to adjust with what they are trained. Then we also trained 2,394 champions, and then also 480 champions for SNE. And we have also trained the end teachers, who are the supervisors, both in the regular and the SNE, and both and the private, and you can see the numbers. And what we are saying is that the number of teachers trained in CBA and CBC is therefore 229,292 from 2019 to 2021, and that is recorded in table 8 in this document. Now, what are we saying? We have almost completed all the primary school teachers, and even some of them have attended like thrice or twice. Now, what is remaining now are the new teachers we are recruiting. Because remember last year, you approved 5,000. Now the 5,000 are now getting into the system. We also approved 10,000 teacher interns. They are also getting in the system. Now, when they get into the system, some of them have no CBC training. So what has happened, when they reach the school, they are a bit fearful to handle the classes that are CBC. And that's why we are doing a very quick training to make sure they are CBC compliant to continue handling. Because we cannot employ somebody if we can't handle that class. So the new teachers are the ones that are now being taken through to understand what has happened. But one of the other things that we have agreed with the champions and the teachers and the CSOs is that when they have new teachers coming to the school, they should be doing also what we call school-based teacher professional development, so that they can help them to cope up with what is happening. And that has really come out. So then what are the training outcomes? So in the last training in 2021, we evaluated the impact of the training on the teacher competence to implement CBC and CBA, and these were the findings. This is now data that we did. And the teachers said the training increased the percentage of teachers familiar with basic education curriculum framework from the pre-92 to the post-98%. And the teacher education curriculum framework from 82% to 96%. The percentage of teachers able to interpret the curriculum designs moved from 77 to 95%. The teachers indicated a clear understanding of the proposed career pathway moved from 81 to 89. A significant knowledge enhanced witness in the regard of teachers being conversant with CBC components moved from 79 to 93. Now, sincerely speaking, if that is what the teachers are saying themselves, and they are the doers of the work, can we challenge it? And then, what also has come out is that teachers are conversant using learner-teacher-friendly pedagogies. It moved from 85 to 97. Another aspect was improving the training, was the confidence to implement the new curriculum designs from the teachers. It moved from 83 to 94. The shift I-Stakes examination to the test use of the CBA as necessary, it was moved from 85 to 95. From when we started to where we are now in 2021. So you can actually see there is a great change of what is happening. And you can see that in the illustration. The first one is I have confidence to use the new designs, and you can see the percentage. And if the teachers have the confidence to use the designs, then it's a reality, CBC is occurring in the class. And the other one, the shift from I-Stakes examination, you can see it's 90. And my knowledge of competence-based assessment, you can see. So teachers themselves have actually indicated this is happening. So then what are the achievements?
Maybe as you're going on.
Yes.
I don't know, this assessment was done on which teachers?
The primary school teachers.
No, which is it in county or where?
It was an online survey for all the teachers indicated. I indicated to you that it is all the counties that we do. Because TSC handles all the counties. So it is not one, it's all the counties. Yeah.
I had wanted to interrupt, but I opted not to, but let me take the cue from Chair. You know, when you were talking about these percentages, I was very confident because I thought they are based on some empirical, sort of external observation and data collection. This is self-evaluation, which is problematic in itself, because either they can value themselves higher than they really are, or they can just say, you know, if I don't say I don't support, I might be in trouble. So I don't know. I'm a bit, from a research perspective, if I'm asked, what do you think? Okay, fine, that is one angle, okay? We can self-evaluate. But a very thorough methodology to get confidence would be these expert teachers who are helping the others making an evaluation of the progress of these teachers and getting some sort of instrument to be able to measure externally. Because if you ask me, what do you think about this? Have you improved? I will not tell you I have not improved.
That is from one side of thinking. One of the aspects we are talking about is how do we begin ourselves to believe our teachers if they are going to be teaching values.
Oh yes.
If
maybe the only challenge was the number.
Yes, no, I can get you the number.
No, I saw the number.
Yes.
So that N was 5.
Yes, yes. The N was the number. Yes.
Which is again in comparison to the number of teachers at below.
Exactly. But indeed, it was all over the county. Teachers got online and they taught themselves. So that is one aspect. But for us, it is, and you see, we also do monitoring, frequent monitoring, which is done by KNEC and also KNEC. We also did, if you go to our website today, I would really request, go to our website, we have an evaluation for the TPAD, which was done by the University of Nairobi, on the curriculum implementation of our teachers. And you find, from an external perspective, what is happening. I would implore, from a research point, please read that report. It will help you to understand why some of these aspects I bring on board are very critical. Yes.
I think I also liked what you said about the value.
Yes.
That if you're teaching these values, you must also have those values themselves.
Yes.
So that can be an overriding sort of at the back of the mind that these teachers have reached a level where they can actually be able to have that value,
Exactly.
even as they give the data.
Thank you. So the achievements that we have got is that the participants exhibited positive attitude towards the training, which is evident in the commitment and the active participation displayed. The CBC champion the ones that were training the teachers, because one of the blame is that the people training the teachers have not. Now, they have mastered the content and have understood the concept, and they have put their best foot in the training, and they are supporting and working with the CSOs. And I really bet that one day when you have time, please go and observe how the CSOs are supporting at the zonal level. I sincerely want to request that to do it. Because we may be talking from an educator point of view, but because you people are at the ground, please visit and then give us a feedback. Yeah. Then most of the venues were accessible and suitable for the training. The reason is because the government told us we need to use public institutions. Because remember, we are against a tight budget. So we couldn't go around hiring venues because of the tight budget. And the organizers were able to provide that. And one of the things I want to mention is that during the training, teachers are provided with 10 o'clock tea, they are provided with lunch, they are provided with 4 o'clock tea, they are provided with the bus fare to and fro, and the ones that are in ASAL areas are provided with accommodation. And the SNE team and the teachers of SNE are accommodated within a center so that they don't travel. And all that is paid by government. So that is what is happening. And records are there for anybody who wants to see where they are. The trainings were also monitored by the headquarter staff with the ministry officials, TSC, KNEC, and KNEC. They went monitoring at the ground what was happening. The regional directors and the county directors also did the monitoring, and they provided adequate staff. Classrooms in the primary schools were inadequate in terms of size. Sometimes we had very high numbers. Teachers didn't want to be trained. But sometimes the venues that we have are so small. So we end up even going to use our church, which is next. That is what has happened. And the goodwill that we have received has really been encouraging. And we are saying all the target participants in the planned exercise were well prepared in the cascade mode of the training. KNEC and KNEC prepared the presentations and practically demonstrated and trained the national master trainers. So it is not anyone that is coming to train the national master trainers. It is the people that are cooking the food. KNEC and KNEC cook the food. Now they come with the food and serve it to the master trainers. So if the master trainers are served with that food, they now go and do it at the county level. They train the CSOs and they train the champions. The champions also and the CSOs now train the teachers. And KICD, NEC, and TSC monitor and professionally support the teachers at the field. So you can see the cascade model is a smart cascade model. Because if I'm the national master trainer, I will go during the zonal training. We distribute ourselves in all the zones. And we go to observe how the training is occurring and support the trainers. So even if they have a weakness, it is handled at that level. And they are quite well versed with what is happening. Our teachers have gone a number of trainings even outside the CBC training. For example, there is a training British Council offers to our teachers called core skills. Core skills are basically the 7 core competencies. And it is very thorough. It is taken over in 4 months, not like the one that we offer. So those people are the ones we use. And they really help. KICD team is the one that is doing the content. They are the ones who are writing the learning outcome. So if they go and train somebody to write a learning outcome, can you doubt the train?
No.
NEC is doing assessment. They are the ones that come and train the master trainer. They watch the master trainer train. Where he has a problem, they help. So can we doubt that master trainer? So that for me is very critical. Then the training of the teachers at the zone is well coordinated and planned effectively. The national master trainers offer the training as I have said. We also offer stationery at the county and the materials like the Manila papers, the projectors, the laptops, the pens they write with, the exercise books. The government pays for that. And then the heads of institutions, they organize meals. And finally, the people, the sub-county and the field officers monitor and offer support. What are some of the challenges that we have got through? One of the challenges that has been very difficult for us is the delay of disbursement of funds. If I'm supposed to do a training in April, and I am not given funds in April, that already will go without any training. And sometimes it is not our wish. We would want to train, but we have not been given funds. Because you see, we provide meals, we provide accommodation, we provide. So if we don't have money given on time, then it means that may be a challenge. But we are very grateful now, at least this year, money was delivered on time. That's why we were able to do a number of trainings even in the midst of COVID, observing the COVID-19 guidelines. Then some regions also experienced a lot of rain, which was very challenging for some people. You found like in Baringo, where people are going with a boat. It was very challenging because teachers could not access. So what we did, we had to transport the teachers to a safer place. So that delayed the training. And it wasn't our wish. You know, those are external factors. So we would have really wanted. But it has been done. Insecurity in some of the zones, in the ASAL areas. You remember, we had a lot of issues when our teachers were migrated from Northeastern because of the insecurity. And that also made a challenge among the people we were training there. But we made sure the teachers were trained. Even when we migrated them, wherever they went, they were allowed to attend the trainings. So when they went back, then they were able to continue with the teaching and learning process. The other one is that some of the places we had a challenge with the vehicles because of the vastness and the terrain. For example, if you are taken to Taita Taveta, there is somewhere where you go and the vehicle can't move like this.
Yes.
Yes. And we want people to reach there. So what we used to do is leave the vehicle at the foot of the mountain and walk up. Because we want to serve the country. So our teachers and our CSOs have been sacrificing for the purpose of making sure this happens. The ICT gadgets in most schools were not effectively used. Now this is an issue we have taken up very seriously, and we have told every teacher if the gadgets are not being used, then they need to be surrendered. So they have realized it's now going to be an issue. And we have now put the issue of usage of gadgets in TPAD, which is compulsory.
Oh, yeah.
So they must follow now as a regulatory issue. And then some of the zones are not connected to the power grid. They were using generators. So you can imagine you have taken a generator, you have the fuel, you can come with a fuel in a jerrycan, and after about 2 hours, it's over. So you have to run down again to look for fuel. So these are some of the challenges that have been there. Then automatically, this affected the use of ICT in the training. In the junior secondary, because one of the other aspects that Chair was raised in your write-up is that we needed to answer how we are prepared for the junior secondary that is coming in the next 1 year. And what has happened is that according to the transition times by the KICD and MOE, the learners currently in the upper primary school will join junior secondary in January 2023. And therefore, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development and Framework has highlighted the new areas that the Commission require to make projections and prepare for the availability of teachers to handle junior and senior school areas. So TSC is already on board in consultation with the KICD and the NEC. We have been told these are the new areas. These are the new methods of assessment that has been communicated. After that, we have gone ahead and done a projection of how many teachers do we need in these new areas, and even the teachers that we need for preparing for 7, 8, and 9. And even 10, 11, and 12. And therefore, we are already on board on this. And this is what has been done. These are the areas that need special attention in order to have the required number of teachers. So we have the core areas, the pre-technical and the pre-vocational. We have the life skills education, agriculture, health education. And the optional subject, we have the indigenous languages, Kenya sign language, visual arts, and performing arts. These areas need serious attention. That is where our minds are as a commission now. Working with the universities, working with the technical institutions, working with the special needs institutions like KISE to make sure we have met this number. And we have met the requirement. And then in the junior secondary, we are saying the first thinking as we prepare is that we do not, it is not a must, it is not that we do not have teachers. I think let it be known. For example, if we are talking about health education is a new area in the curriculum, but it can be taught by teachers of home science and biology. What they need is a retooling so that they are recasted. Social studies include the new content. So citizenship, which is introduced as a new learning area, can be taught by a teacher of social studies. Sports and physical education include the aspects of sports and health. Now, sports and health can be taught by a teacher who is teaching PE even today. So it's not that they are completely not having teachers. Then, visual arts. We want to ensure that the teachers can facilitate the learning in art and craft, as well as visual and applied arts in senior school. So that is the broadness of how we are looking at it. Then performing arts, the teachers will be expected to facilitate music, dance, theater, and elocution. So what is going to be done is that the music teacher is going to be retooled to be able to recast himself to that. But the universities have been asked that these are the new areas now in curriculum. Can you prepare teachers against the new areas? So that by the time we reach 2023, we have a crop coming out either at diploma level or at degree level, but they are able to meet the demand that we want as Teacher Service Commission. So that is what is being done. And we are working closely with the National Treasury and as a multi-agency to make sure we have at least all the public school teachers trained for the CBC at the junior secondary, and we are proposing that we are going to train them from next year April, because we are completing with the grade 6 in December, and then we will train the secondary school teachers in April, August and December in readiness for 2023. And that time, KNEC will have also completed all the designs, and NEC will have also completed the assessment framework for grade 7, 8 and 9, so that we combine the training and do them together. And then to this end, the Commission is currently putting modalities to ensure training schedule is going to be successful. Finally, we have also this program of unemployed teachers who are out there, and as I indicated, these teachers who are out there, the P1 teachers, and even the diploma teachers, and also the graduate teachers who are not completely CBC compliant. These teachers have a program that has started. It started on Monday, 4th, in all our national public colleges. It is called an upgrade program for 9 months. It is a pre-service program. Now this pre-service program is being done because, as a commission, as I indicated, when we post a teacher now who is not CBC compliant, we have a lot of cases that are coming up because the teacher is not able to teach grade 1 to grade 5. Because he is not CBC compliant. So what has been decided is that these teachers who are out there, the ones already absorbed by the commission, will go through the training virtually. And they will go the time they have closed the school, the time we plan for them, within the training, the in-service. But the ones who are outside, who are not absorbed, we have said they need to go through this training, which has covered this training, and I want to say this training is different from what we are hearing from the media about the teacher professional development. Yeah. Those are two completely separate trainings. Sure. The upgrade program is basically to make this teacher who came out of college not CBC compliant to be CBC compliant. And also to make the teacher reach the level of a diploma. Because if we are going to be removing diploma teachers with the new diploma course out of the colleges, after they finish the pre-service, they come out as diploma college teachers. Now, if they come out as diploma and the other ones are P1, how are you going to deal with their salaries? How are you going to deal with their motivation? And that is where we want to remove the issue of inequity as per the Constitution. So that the teachers, as they now finish this course, all of them will be at par for diploma. So that their remuneration will be at par for diploma. So that is why this training is mounted. One, it is looking at the issue of the P1 content that they did, and the new diploma primary teacher education content that is there, and checking the gaps. Because they are not going through the entire content. They are going through the gaps which are identified between the P1 and the new primary diploma. Their designs have been made against those gaps, and that is the content they will be undertaking when they are now attending the course. And I can tell you, senators, that it has attracted a very high number. Because as a commission, we have registered over 300,000 teachers unemployed. So as we talk today, almost every college has over 500 who have registered and wants to begin the course. So that quickly, the question of CBC training that bridge is going to be filled.
Yeah.
So that is the quick fix method we are using. So that these teachers are CBC compliant. They have been taken through a pre-service for 9 months. They will do even TP for CBC. They will do even a micro teaching for CBC. And therefore, when the commission will be employing after they are finished, we will be employing teachers that are CBC compliant. And we will not now begin again to go training them. So that is what is being done. So it is different from what is coming out in the media about the teacher professional development. Those are two totally different programs. And the teachers have already reported, and we are really hopeful that this will really be a success. And with that, I want to stop there. Thank you.
I will talk from here. I choose to talk from here. One, I would like us to give a big clap to the TSC representative, Mr. Ndaburi. And then we end with flowers to him. And also other flowers to your CEO. Those flowers you take to him. Yeah, to her, sorry. Now, one, I would like to really appreciate the presentation from Mr. Ndaburi. And I think it's very, very enriching, even for senators. Like me, I'm really enriched. The fact that you're already projecting that you want teachers, to train teachers to fill the gap areas that are there. You have put mechanisms in place. It is a very good thing. And the fact that you have challenges and you're seeing how to address the challenges, that is very good. And I think also the fact that you have a program. In fact, I'm surprised that there's this rich program where now teachers are being trained to have diploma courses. Then eventually they will be eventually they'll be deployed. They'll be deployed by the TSC. Yeah. Probably people, I don't know, maybe someone might want to find out. Immediately after college, will they be deployed or they'll see to wait for deployment? Because that is also one question that needs to come out clearly. And then when it comes to payment, who's doing the payments and how much are they supposed to pay for that program? The teachers who are going for retraining, maybe you need to be really clear on that. And the fact that universities are also coming in, yeah, you're extending to universities to ensure that the gap areas are also closed. The issue of universities, I don't know whether you have been able, the TSC has been able to sensitize the teachers themselves, the lecturers themselves, the university management on the core subjects that are needed in the industry. Because even at university, the university should be targeting the industry so that when students are trained, after university, they have a fallback. Because sometimes students are trained, but when they go to the industry, they find that they are not really relevant. And we find quite a number of students really lacking jobs. So is there a mechanism in which you've been able to reach the universities so that the university also have those courses? Like the way someone would go, I'm going for B.Ed, in education, B.Ed, in special education, B.A. and all that. So have you been able to discuss with the university so that they also structure their work very well. Like someone going to KU should be able to know these and these courses are being offered, and then after that, someone will get a job in whichever area. And then another thing maybe that may need to come out clearly, after the training, you mentioned training that has been going on. Have the teachers been able to get certificates? And I'm happy the issue of TOT is coming out very clearly. And this is something we must really congratulate the TSC, that they are having training of trainers, that these teachers are being trained, then when they go back, they'll train others. That is something very rich, because you end up expanding your horizon, yeah? That you've trained one person, and then when the one person goes, to the villages, he may train about 10, 20. You see, that is expanding the horizon, and that is something that is really commendable that the TSC is doing. So I'm just wondering, these teachers whom you are training, you've trained, yeah? Will they also go through the other training that we are talking about? The one for progressing, teacher progression. And probably someone might want to ask a question also from Mr. Ndamburi. Mr. Ndamburi, if anyone has a question on what Ndamburi has actually presented, people are free to ask.
Thank you, and I'll be brief because I've just asked Lingera for and this came to TSC, came to the stakeholders, because we're doing this on behalf of the House, and we've listened to the answers. So I just wanted to quickly check that all the issues have been handled. When I see 5 from where she asked different things and they've been answered. Specifically at 5, she says, spell out the criteria of selection of schools which will qualify as junior secondary schools. So maybe I might not have got it in the presentation. The other aspects I think have come out, outline the role, if any, that will be played by the current primary schools in the rollout of the curriculum, state whether adequate infrastructure has been put in place. I think that has come across. Provide statistics of the teachers who have undergone training. That is what we've just gone through. Explain the extent to which teachers who have to teach the junior secondary schools have been trained to handle. I think that one has been handled. So I think it's more of that we've tackled the software, so to speak, now the hardware, in terms of, because I think people are trying to conceptualize the primary school. It goes up to standard 7 and 8. Now in the new, ending up to grade, where will the junior secondary school be? Will it be based in primary? That sort. I think this is the sort of thinking. So I think maybe if you could just expand on that, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I continue?
Yes, you may.
Maybe.
Sorry.
Chair,
you have.
Sorry, I have a reservation. I'm sorry to come in.
It's okay.
So I would have wished, in the interest of time, because our director CEO felt that, had some challenges. He had requested to listen to the 2 presentations that leave. I don't know whether he will be able to preserve the questions briefly, or that we listen to KNEC, because in a short while we are going to the plenary, where we are having not only those questions, but even others. If you don't mind.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Can do that.
Thank you so much.
I think so.
So, we good?
Go on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ndamburi, for the information from TSC that has been very rich and insightful. Now we want to welcome KICD. Is it? KNEC. Yeah, we now welcome KNEC to give a presentation.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think I'll start as they set up the equipment and indicate there's no signal. And indicate that mine is going to be quite short. Okay, perfect. Because the presentations that were made by Professor Ngondo and Dr. Dhamburi have covered a lot of the ground on what KNEC has done, because if you look at the document you were given on the basic education curriculum framework, there is a section on assessment, quite elaborate, that explains everything that will happen in as far as assessment is concerned. And I will just reiterate what Professor Ngondo said, that much as we are receiving this feedback, because we choose to call it feedback, not criticism. Much as we are getting all this feedback, of course some of the feedback is very animated. It's couched in very, in language, yes, yeah, colors, and yes. I have challenged anyone who cares to check the facts, because I always say that if we are debating, we are entitled to our opinions, but we are not entitled to our own facts. And a lot of the debate that goes on, I have challenged people to show me, and I'm willing to learn, to show me any other change in education that has been done that has been as elaborate as the CBC one. And I'm yet to get anybody who can tell me that there is any change since independence that has happened in this country in education that has been as well thought out as the one that we are going through. So the basic education curriculum framework, as Professor Ngondo said, this is the first time in the history of this country that we are having a change in education driven foremost by a blueprint. It's just like when we got Vision 2030. In this country before Vision 2030, we never had such elaborate blueprints on how change will happen. Change just used to happen. Sure. But now we have a basic education curriculum framework. And this is also the first time that we are having change in education that is driven by a very clear vision and mission. And I have asked people to tell me, since independence, when else have we ever had change that is driven by a clearly stated vision and mission? People take me to 844 and I ask them, bring me a document, one document that states what people call education for self-reliance. Just bring me that document that said that. The document is not there. There is no such document. So we have a very clear vision and mission. And so what KNEC is doing is to build on what KICD has done, what TSC is doing at the tail end of the process to now provide the assessment. So, because I know that it is 3 o'clock, and obviously the blood has gone to the stomach and to all other places to process the food, and coming after my friend Dr. Dhamburi, who does not require a public address system. I know I'll have a challenge of maintaining your attention. And so allow me to use a metaphor so that if you don't take anything else away, you understand what we are doing using a metaphor. So allow me to use a metaphor of a hospital to explain the change that we are adopting in as far as competency-based assessment is concerned. And I'll pose this as a question to the chair. If you had a choice of two hospitals, because that's a choice that we are posing to Kenyans. You had a choice of two hospitals. One hospital has a very big lab. That's where we usually go to have our samples taken, blood, stool, urine, all that. And a very small mortuary. Okay? Then you have another hospital that has a very big mortuary and a very small lab. Of the two, which one would you prefer to go to? That is a choice that this country is faced with between continuing with 844 and adopting CBC. Because in 844, if you were to use that metaphor, we have a very small lab which is almost can't be seen. But you have a huge mortuary. Because at the end of every cycle, when we finish class 8 KCP exams, and when we finish Form 4 KCSE exams, we come back and give results, and I'm glad that my friend Chair is here. And he knows what happens. We come there and say, declare that out of the 700,000 children who sat for KCSE, only 100,000 will make it to university and tertiary institutions. The rest, we tell them that, well, you go and look for TVET. In fact, why TVET is not working in this country is especially because of that. That is the tag. Because we always come and say that the following numbers can join university, but the following who have not, quote and unquote, passed, go to TVET. So what are you telling those children? We are clearly just telling them that TVET is for failures. What CBC is doing, it's coming in to say that for me to become a mason, for me to become a plumber, it is not about whether I got a C+ or not. It has to be driven by the mission of these reforms, which is nurturing every learner's potential. It's asking me what is my interest. Because we have made assumptions in our education system. And one of the most erroneous assumptions that we make is that if I get an A in biology and I get an A in chemistry, it therefore means that I should become a doctor. That's the assumption we make. That if I have an A in math and an A in physics, I should become an engineer. Is it true that all I need to become a good doctor is a measurement of my ability in biology and chemistry? CBC is coming in with a set of core competencies that says the most important core competence is self-efficacy. Asking, who am I, as David? So once we know who am I, we don't start with what can I do. Who am I, as David? And so, how will the education system get to know who I am, and provide me with a learning environment that will bring out the best in me. Not pushing me to become a doctor simply because you have measured me in biology and chemistry. And that's why we are having a lot of doctors in this country who really should not be doctors. They are only doctors because they got an A in biology. Got an A in. So the debate around CBC is bigger than the level that we are being taken to debate. We are being taken very low. Yet this aspiration is huge. It is driven by a mission and a vision. And if we want to engage on the merits and demerits of CBC, we would rather take time in asking ourselves, is the mission right? Because the mission is we want to produce an engaged, empowered, and ethical citizen. Let someone come and tell us there's something wrong with that. And the mission is to nurture every learner's potential. Let's debate that. Is that a wrong mission? Yeah? But let me move to maneno ya assessment. So the basic education curriculum framework is actually the blueprint that KNEC is using. Because we can't depart from what KICD is doing and assume that the reforms will be successful. And sometimes the reforms fail at the altar of assessment. Because if you come up with all these different things that you want done, but the assessment does not respect that, then you kill the aspirations of the curriculum. And therefore we have remained very close to the to what the basic education curriculum framework says. And we have those set of competencies, the 7 of them, which are driving these reforms. These core competencies have been benchmarked across the world. Actually, if you Google 21st century skills, if any of you dares to Google 21st century skills, this is what is going to show up. Those 7 core competencies. So, CBC is foremost about aligning our education to the demands of the 21st century. And educators around the world, sometimes I hear people asking, oh, in which country is this working? And I ask, educators around the world have already done the research. And they have said, you cannot be successful in the 21st century if you do not have those 7 core competencies. That's where it starts. Let's start the debate there and ask, is there any of these core competencies which we feel our children should not have? So that we can say, oh, let's abandon CBC and go back to 844 because these ones are not relevant to our children. So that's where it starts. And with what KNEC is doing is first to recognize these core competencies. And some of the challenges we have been having, of course, I submit that there is a challenge with communication. We have not communicated this as adequately as we should do, is that we have to frame our assessment right from what we did in grade 3. If we had time, I would have demonstrated to you how the assessment we did in grade 3, when we sent children to the markets, and a lot of, especially middle class parents, especially the ones in Nairobi, were all over the place, saying our children are being converted into chokoras in markets. And clearly, these are the core competencies that we were assessing, because competency is about applying knowledge. You can't apply knowledge when you're inside a class. You can only apply it at the place where that knowledge is required. But of course, we know we have a long journey. It's not easy, because the people who are having the children in those CBC classes are not you. They are the ladies behind you. You see those ladies? Those ones behind you. Those are the ones. And when you know, what they have gone through in their life is 844, where all they were required to do is to sit in class. The teacher comes there, presents a set of facts. Then the teacher comes down with a test that asks them to give the teacher back what the teacher gave them. That's what they know. You can't blame them. So now when we tell them, take your children to the market to go and apply the knowledge, they're asking, what kind of an education is this? So anyway, but we will get there, I know. So this framework that we have developed, once again, we have never had an assessment in Kenya that is driven by a framework. We receive syllabuses from KICD and start developing exam papers. But this time we have said we need a framework, and we are working on that framework. But as per bullet 3, this framework will remain a working draft because we know that KICD is also finalizing the curriculum designs. So when people are demanding and saying, where is the framework? You know, we cannot complete the framework until we complete the curriculum process. But we have a draft because we acknowledge that yes, children are already in grade 5, so we can't sit back and wait. We have a draft framework, and that's what I will be presenting to you. Then the last bullet is about the biggest shift that we will experience in as far as assessment is concerned. That we have taken time to ask ourselves, how will we make sure that when David is not in KNEC and there is another CEO, or when Professor Magoha is not the CS and there is another CS, or when Uhuru is not the president, that what we are coming up with will make sense to whoever else follows. So they don't come and start changing things without knowing why was that put where it was put. So we have benchmarked around the world, and we have established that the 4 parameters that will make sure that this is solid is to make sure that every assessment is driven by understanding 4 things. The purpose. Why are we offering that assessment? So for every assessment that we are going to offer, we will take time and unpack and make sure we understand why we are offering that assessment. The debate that commonly even goes through the media around KCPE, KCSE, I always find so many experts who come on TV, and with all due respect, some of them have the same qualifications that Professor Ongondo has. And they come there and say, why are we not having, why are we doing this with KCP? And clearly you look at them and you say, okay, God help this country. Because they don't understand the purpose of that assessment. Until you understand the purpose, you cannot come to critique or insist that it should take a given direction. So we will make sure that for every assessment we give, we provide the purpose. Then the mode that the assessment is going to take. And here, the mode is particularly taking the dimension of school-based and national. There are some assessments which you must accept. It is not possible for KNEC to be available in every school. We have to take the teacher, build the capacity of the teacher based on what Dr. Dhamburi was presented, so that the teacher offers that assessment. That's what we are calling school-based assessment. Then there is the national assessments that KNEC will need to undertake, and I'll be explaining the interface between the school-based and the national assessments. Then we have the tools that we will use. Of course, that makes sense because if you're going to assess, you must ask which tools you're going to use. Then finally, and which is the most critical, is the reporting. A lot of times the way we report, and the media has been pushing us, but we have resisted that temptation. The media has been camping. In fact, they call me almost every week. And they are always asking me, where are the results for grade 4? And I know what they want to do. Yes, we know what they want to do. They want to start raising the stakes. Because the moment the media picks it, and they start now comparing, then we will start sacrificing learning at the altar of assessment. And that's, we don't want that to happen. So the reporting part is the one we are saying we will be very careful with. And we want you people to help us. Because we almost lost it. Okay, I dare say, okay, I know the media is here, I have to be careful what I say. Because the parliament amended KNEC Act to insist that we do ranking. So it's parliament sometimes that is creating this unhealthy environment that we find ourselves in. Because the moment you bring in ranking and even make it a statutory requirement that it must be done, then you are saying you will make teachers start teaching to the test. So you have to help us also, so that tomorrow I don't wake up and find KNEC Act has been amended, and there are things we are being asked to do, which we know clearly are going to take us in the wrong direction. So the reporting, we are going to be very careful with it, so that the reporting adheres to the aspirations that the CBC expects to do. So the objectives are there on the things that we hope this framework will help us achieve: improve learning and instruction. The second one is very important: identification and nurturing of every learner's potential. As Professor Ongondo said, if we want to see change in this country, and we have tons of papers, I'm glad I'm addressing scholars, and we can share those papers with you, particularly on the Asian Tigers secret behind why they got where they got. I know that in Kenya we keep saying we want to benchmark with the Asian Tigers, and it's there in our Vision 2030. We've said we want to benchmark with Malaysia, South Korea, Singapore, and all that. Why don't we ever say we want to benchmark with Thailand? It's one of the Asian Tigers. That paper answers that question. Because when we compare ourselves with those Asian Tigers, we always look at where we were in terms of GDP. And we say that our GDP was comparable to the Asian Tigers' GDP. And Lee Kuan Yew has actually said it in his book, From Third World to First World. He has devoted a whole section where he talks of how they came to benchmark with Kenya. It's there, a whole section on benchmarking. But what we fail to recognize, and which comes out very clearly in that paper, I'll share that paper with you. It was done by Talak way back in 2002. He says that the problem with this side of the south of is that we did not invest more in the quantity and quality of secondary education. That is the problem. Secondary education is the factor that either takes you outside a subsistence economy to a knowledge economy, or keeps you in the subsistence economy. And I have the papers, they are researched. Those are globally published papers, peer-reviewed, not like the ones we are being told to read, which have just been published in some funny places. And you can clearly see that where Kenya started going wrong is when we started to affect the structure of our education so that we increase the number of years in primary and reduce the number of years in secondary. Because these high order thinking skills, the ones that Dr. Azani was asking about, all the way from, and I agree with you, that you cannot do away with knowledge. Because if you look at the taxonomies, either you are looking at the old Blooms or the revised Blooms, at the bottom of that taxonomy is recall. for you to recall, you must engage with knowledge. So there is no way you can comprehend or apply or analyze or synthesize, evaluate, and do all those things if you do not have knowledge. So at the bottom of the pyramid, knowledge is there. But then the challenge is, at primary level, you cannot get a child to the higher order thinking skills. It is not possible. You can only do that at the secondary level. So Tarak says that if you want to move an economy from subsistence to knowledge based, then you have to increase the quantity and quality of secondary education. So now we keep asking, oh, why did these Asian tigers overtake us? That is the issue. We tinkered with our education, reduced it to 4 years. There isn't adequate time for that child. As they enter Form 1, 2 years later, they are starting to prepare for the exam. The quality is also affected because we are asking children to do everything. When you are doing 7 subjects, usually, what do you focus on? We want you to be an expert in English, to be an expert in Kiswahili, to be an expert in math, to be an expert in sciences, in humanities. So the quality of that 4 years is affected by that kind of, you are just like a man having too many wives. So in this case, the shift that you are focusing on, I withdraw that one. The shift that we are anticipating to come with nurturing these learners' potential will not be achieved because I've had some people argue that why don't you take all these things you are doing in CBC and apply them in 844? It is not possible. It is not possible to do that. So the third is facilitate selection of pathways and tracks. I think the question had come and we will unpack that later. Then achievement and certification. And number 5 is so important because we are saying that beyond just measuring achievement, as KNEC, we also want to go into assessment of community service learning and values. Because we know that KICD has put a lot of emphasis on values and community service learning. But we know very well, if this will not be measured, it will not be taught. It will be ignored. Because Mwalimu here knows that that they are just waiting for KNEC to come up with the regulations and say this is what we are going to measure. Then those lessons that have been left for community service learning will be given to the areas which will be measured. And I know that this is an area which is work in progress because we are engaged with a lot of experts around the world who are working with us and who are working in other jurisdictions to ask ourselves the question, and this is a very important question for KNEC. Do we focus on valuing what we measure, or do we also measure what we value? And that's a big question. It may sound like just a rhetorical, syntactic question. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is, in the current dispensation of 844, we are more preoccupied with valuing what we measure. But we know that values are so important to us. So if values are so important to us, why do we not measure them? And I know there is a lot of subjectivity, but it is done. How comes? Like when I became CEO KNEC and I arrived there, the first thing I did was to call the human resource deputy director. And I told her, I need a good driver. Yes, I want an honest driver. I want a respectful driver. There was no exam. But within a short time, she came with 3 names and told me these ones, these 3, they are very respectful. What tool did she use? But when we come to education, first thing we are told, no, you can't measure this. These ones are very difficult to measure. Why is it that they are very difficult? Yet, in real life, we are able to measure. Yeah. So we are saying, if we value it, let us find a way of measuring it. And of course, the other things are about feedback and all that. The last one is very important for Dr. Dhamburi, because we are saying we must find a basis for accountability for our teachers. Because there was that assumption that with CBC, teachers were to be a free-for-all. You know, they can do everything they want, but CBC will actually make them more accountable, of course, than school administrators and other stakeholders. So I think I had explained that our assessment is underpinned by those 7 core competencies. Then the focus will be a balance. I think Professor Ngondo explained this, that we are not doing away with summative completely. What we are having is a balance between formative and summative. You can't completely do away with summative, especially because of the equity issues in this country. And I'll be talking to that shortly when I come to the next presentation. Then we are saying the issue of higher order thinking skills rather than the lower order thinking skills. And of course, we know it is very difficult to assess some of these higher order thinking skills using pen and paper. We have limited ourselves in 844 to doing most of our assessments using pen and paper. Some higher order thinking skills you cannot assess on pen and paper. The child must demonstrate certain things. They must do certain things, and you see them doing it to conclude whether they have acquired this higher order thinking skills. So self and peer assessment, this is what we are calling assessment as learning, because we have restricted ourselves to assessment to teachers only. That is only teachers who assess the learners. But we are saying that in this dispensation, there are 3 paradigms: assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. So that bullet is what refers to assessment as learning. So the child and the peers must also be able to assess themselves. You assess yourself and tell, am I getting where I am supposed to go? And your peers can also assess you. Then multiple as opposed to one-off assessments, authentic assessments, I think Dr. Dhamburi talked about that, performance, qualitative, balancing those, and then acquisition of values as very important. I won't take too much time on this because this is now the technical side of the principles. Once again, if someone is telling us, oh, CBC is not well thought out, I don't know, there's no research, sometimes you just want to sleep. Because we spend so much time researching into the principles. 844, let someone come and tell me, what are the principles of assessment in 844? Present just one and give me a document that gives it doesn't exist at all. And that's what we are being told to go back to. At least this time we have sat down and asked ourselves, what are the principles that will guide, so that if someone comes in future and says, I want to change, then they should come to the principles and change them first. And say, well, because this principle has changed, let us change that. We don't want to run an education system that will be determined by the whims of the person who is running it. That now we get a new CEO next year in KNEC, and now they come and say, no, change this. They have to first look at what are the principles. If you have a problem with the principles, tell us what the problem is, then change the assessment. So we have validity, reliability, fairness. That's a very important principle, that our assessments must be fair to all the learners. And if we had time to come with the actual assessments we administered, you will see there was a lot of fairness, to children regardless of their socioeconomic background. In fact, the other day I was reading a newspaper article that is accusing us, and I was saying nothing could be further from the truth. That when we ask them to come and clean a shoe, because that's one of the assessments we did in grade 3.
Yeah.
Any of these young people who have a child in grade 3 can tell you, oh, you have one. Remember when we asked them to clean shoes, we gave options, didn't we? We said the shoe can be leather, it can be canvas, it could be even slippers. Honestly, what better way would you have of fairness than to make sure that every child, regardless of where they are, because what you are assessing is the skill, is the ability to clean. You are not assessing the shoe. It doesn't matter the shoe they come with. They come with a canvas one, show us how to clean that. Come with a whatever, and we even say you don't have to clean 2. You can clean 1. So we're trying to be as fair as fairness can be stretched. Then there is flexibility, accessibility, practicality, authenticity, currency, sufficiency, and feedback. So that is the issue we were talking about, reporting and what to be about. So these are principles, and we have tons of literature across the world of how different dispensations are using this. Then this I know can send you to sleep. But it is all based on the basic education curriculum framework. So in the interest of time, I will not spend too much time, but I look at the right side, where we have the foundation, intermediate, pre-vocation, and vocation. And I want to explain that the arrows which are in between there, those arrows are not saying that this is the equivalent of. They are simply saying that a child, based on assessment, they can move from this side to this side, or they can move from this side to this side, based on assessment. Because we know that SNE, the bedrock of SNE, and I'm sure Haga and Songe will confirm that the bedrock of SNE and why SNE in Kenya has not been as effective as it should be, the whole business of SNE is assessment. When assessment is weak, that is where you will find children who have speech disorders. They find themselves in a school for intellectually challenged children because the assessment was not done right. Or a child maybe who is autistic, they are assessed and somebody thinks they have intellectual challenges. So what we are saying therefore there is that I could have been placed in SNE, but with continuous assessment, you find I can cope with the regular pathway. So I go there. I could be in the regular pathway, but based on the assessments I go through, you find that I can't cope, and therefore I need to be taken to the SNE pathway. So allow me to now move to, because I know that now Professor Ngondo will start telling me to check on time. Just now to give you an update of where we are in as far as this competency-based assessment is concerned. You know, the first thing that the CS did when he was appointed was to appoint a task force. And that task force was not supposed to come and reinvent the wheel, because all the work had been done in the Douglas Odhiambo task force report of 2012. That's why even we've been taken to court and they are saying this is a Jubilee project. And I'm asking, Professor Ongeri has never been a minister in the Jubilee government, and there's a report to prove that clearly the conceptualization of CBC happened way back during Kibaki's tenure. So when that task force was set up, the purpose of it was to enhance. Actually, the title of that task force is enhancing. You enhance what is existing. So Professor Fatuma Chege task force was coming in to enhance. So when it came to enhance, of course there are certain gray areas that were there in 2019, And one of the gray areas, which actually we were conversing with Dr. Zani at Nashipai, was the question of assessment. And you know, it was so gray that we were asking ourselves, do we not? And I remember we engaged at a very technical level in that meeting on how to do this assessment. And one of the recommendations of that task force, and Ruth Mogambi, who is here representing Professor Chege, can talk more about it, is that we said because of equity, primarily because of equity, because we know that the standards of secondary schools in Kenya are not at the same level. There are certain schools that have, I think the chair understands that very well because you have that or a background. Because of that challenge, you cannot therefore say there will be no assessment at the end of grade 6. Because then how will you determine who goes to which school? And because we know that traditionally there are certain schools that have superior infrastructure, they have all these other things, you must provide an opportunity for every child regardless of where they are. Whether the child is in Turkana, or they are in Mandera, or they are wherever, or in the slums of Kibera, or whichever place they are, they must be given a chance, an equal opportunity to access those few places. But the onus is on the country to make sure that we create the same standards eventually. That's the ideal. That every secondary school should be of the same standard as any other. This is what has made the Asian countries, Europe, the Americas, and all other places not to have these very high stakes exams, because the quality of the schools are leveled. And those children do not even have to travel from outside their neighborhood. You just go to the neighboring secondary school because that secondary school is of the same quality as the one in whichever other place. So until we achieve that, then there is no way we can fail to have summative exams for equity purposes. But for the purpose of making sure we don't kill the spirit of CBC, we said that we will have school-based assessments in grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6. These are the ones administered by the teachers in the school. They are the ones that are finding out, are the learners able to apply the knowledge they have acquired? And that will therefore contribute to 60%. But the assessment tools, because the capacities of these teachers is not quite there as yet. So we can't ask the teachers to come up with the assessment tools themselves. Because in one school, they will come up with a very high quality assessment, but in another school, they will be having another funny assessment tool. So these tools are developed by KNEC. So KNEC develops the tools, sends them to the schools, the teachers administer without any participation of KNEC. But I'll be coming to the question. I know that will be coming very fast. I know that question is coming.
Yeah.
We want to create a workforce, or rather, let's not call them workforce, human resource, that is professional. And I love the vision of TSC in their strategic plan. Their vision is to professionalize the teaching service in Kenya. We will never get there as professionals to become professional teachers if we cannot trust the teachers. And particularly the narrative. The other day we had a meeting with the KNEC, and I told them, you have failed your teachers. Because everyone is asking, can we trust the teachers? You are KNEC. I've never heard you stand up to defend your profession and say we can be trusted. How comes when Corona came, we didn't doubt the doctors? We continue trusting the doctors. Even when people die, we don't stop trusting doctors. We still continue trusting them. But when something small happens in education, oh, we can't trust teachers. Anyway, so these tools were given to the teachers. The teachers administer, they score, and they give feedback to the learners. But then, they submit those scores to KNEC. So that KNEC can do two things. One, check whether these scores are skewed or they are not. Now, that is the only thing I can't tell you how we do it. Because if I tell you how we do it, then we are disclosing too much information. But we are able to tell where people have massaged the grades. We can tell these ones have been massaged.
Sanitized.
Yes, we can tell. That is where we will now come in as KNEC. Because we have a mechanism, even as they are administering, Mwalimu Nzioka may not know, but since he's a council member, he can know now. Even as they are administering, we have a way of knowing how they have administered. And we have a way of getting the script of what they are doing. So we know what is happening. If we notice that there is a shift in a given direction, we will come in and correct. But I will surprise you that when we administered the grade 4 assessment, this is the curve that we got. And this curve actually helps to validate the training that the TSC has been undertaking in collaboration with KNEC and KICD and the ministry. Actually, we keep forgetting that the ministry also participates in the training. Bamburi nafikiri ministry ama tusiende hapo haya. So, if you look at this curve, these teachers, we did not go out to do any invigilation. We did not go out to do any supervision. KNEC was not involved. The teachers were on their own. If you look at that curve, you will see that the peak is somewhere at 8 point something, almost 8.9. That's where the peak is. That is telling you that based on the teacher's assessment, only 50% of the learners were able to get 8.9 out of 20. And I'm also trying to help that when there is this notion that has been going around that, that assessment is just qualitative, there is no quantitative. There is a quantitative score that the child gets. But what we are saying is, we want to balance the two so that you don't just give a child a number. A number doesn't say much. When I say you have 5 out of 10, what does it mean? Does it mean you are getting where I want you to go? Or does it mean you are not where you are supposed to go? So we are balancing both the quantitative and the qualitative. So for grade 4, the total mark is out of 20. Out of 20, now this is the national analysis. Only 50% were actually getting, let's correct it and say 9. But remember that there was Corona. These kids had been at home for almost 1 year. But the wisdom of the president and the CS was that as the class 8 learners are coming back to school, let's also bring back grade 4. So that helped a lot. And Mwalimu Nzioka can tell you. Because all the teachers in a school were only having 2 classes. So they had enough time to concentrate on this. And you can see the correction that happened. So all this nonsense you're hearing out there, people calling themselves researchers, and without data, they're just talking without any data. This is the data. And you can see, when we say we don't trust our teachers, look down there at the tail of 0. Look, there was actually 3 kids there who teachers said, these 3 kids, they got 0. The teachers were able to assess the child and say, these 3 children got 0. Now we are saying we can't trust teachers. How else do you want you to trust them? How else? They say we can't trust them, but they are showing it here. Look at the tail end at 20. There were only 665 children out of 1.16 million. Only 665 were awarded 20 out of 20. So the teachers did not see any need to lie. They told the truth. So what will make them start lying? 3 factors. Number 1, when we keep telling them, even after they have demonstrated that they can be trusted, that you can't be trusted. Yeah, when we keep, if I keep calling my son a liar, wewe ni muongo, wewe ni muongo, wewe ni muongo. You get to a point and say, well, after all, he believes I'm a liar, so why should I not lie? Yeah? Or if you keep calling me a cheat, ninajua wewe unafanya ile maneno ingine. If you keep telling me that, I'll get to the point and say, okay, let me prove it to you that yes, whatever you are saying is true then. So we have to change the narrative. And we are the ones to start. In fact, I've had the conversations even with the CEO, TSC, and I'm saying, for once, can we tell these teachers they have done the right thing? The narrative can't always be that we can't trust them. Surely, if we can't trust them, then why do we have them? And yet, they are the solution. Hata tukizunguka tuende wapi, we will still come back to those teachers. The second factor is the parents. Hao wako hapo nyuma yako. Those are the ones. And we have seen it in Europe. Right now, there is a huge conversation in the UK because of the assessments that were done there last year. The normal curve in the IGCSE and A levels is always that the first quartile of A's, they always have around 25 to 27%. Last year, it shifted to 38%. So the universities are having problems with admission in the UK, not in Kenya. So the parents are the major factor in the UK. The parents went to schools and they went and did what parents do best. Put pressure on the teachers. That, hey, my child is not as bad as you think. My child, so when they nag the teachers too much, the teachers just say, okay, empathia too. Although they know that the child doesn't deserve that. So that's one other factor that might affect this curve. The third one is capacity building. Because as we continue, teachers will need continuous capacity development. We can't stop. So TSC must continue to be resourced very well so that the capacity development does not stop. It continues until we get to the point where teachers are able to administer this without a lot of challenges. So the next, this is the second last slide, is that for grade 6, we are conducting a pilot. And the purpose of this pilot is to acknowledge that we have not done a grade 6 summative assessment. So this is the first time we are doing it. So it has to be informed by a scientific study. And this study is particularly to find the suitability of the tools, the difficulty of the items, the language, the time. And we already administered, we collected the data. In fact, why I got a bit late is because we're having our people somewhere. They are starting to process this data very fast, so that from that data, we will be able to now prepare sample papers. And we will issue these sample papers to all the schools in the country, so that every child will know, by the time they are entering grade 6, they will know this is what the exam will look like, so that they won't be anxious on what the assessment will look like. We are also preparing assessment for teacher education, as Dr. Dhamburi said. We have the upgrade of P1 to diploma. So they won't just be awarded diplomas like a walk in the park. They must demonstrate to us that indeed they have now acquired the necessary knowledge, skills, attitudes, and everything that merit they get that certificate, the diploma. So KNEC is preparing that assessment so that they can be subjected to that as they get upgraded. They're the pre-service diploma. We now already have 12 colleges that are offering this, and we are preparing the assessments that they will be going through. Yeah, thank you very much.
Let us give a better hand clap to the CEO. Those are bonuses. I've not told you to give. I just said let's. Can we start? 1, 2, again. 1, 2, again. 1, 2. That has been a very good presentation, CEO. And I believe that we have been able to get something, in fact a lot, from the presentation. As you were talking about value, what we measure. We measure what we value. At one point I thought it was one and the same thing. But thinking about it deeply, it was very clear that we need to measure what we value. Because what we value is what we really cherish, something that is really dear to us. And it is imperative that we think through it and see, are we really measuring what we value in our children? What is it we value in our education system? Later, yeah, though I've really done a lot in special needs, even in terms of academia and teaching. I was just wondering, when it comes to assessing these learners, do you really look at the qualifications of those who are going to assess? For instance, in terms of children with disabilities, an example of our deaf learners, do you look at critically at who are the people doing the assessment in terms of their qualifications? Even when they go out there to supervise, supervision of Form 4 exams and all that. Do you also look at who exactly is doing it and the qualifications? Because I have had rumors before, and I have a right to hear rumors from that area. Sometimes you get the grapevine, but not all grapevine is factual, yeah? Because at one point I had, grapevine that even the Form 4s, when they're doing their sign language, that people who assess them, some of them do not even have certificates. Do not have teacher training certificates. So maybe you may not have a right answer, and I don't want to blame you, but I think it is good to do some investigatory work and find out in terms of assessment of sign language, in terms of KSL, just the qualifications alone of the people who do this, because the assessors, what is the criteria that you use to ensure that you have the right people actually assessing, so that we measure what we really value in terms of special needs. And probably maybe my colleagues might have one or two things. Senator Dr. Zani, I can see you have pressed your button.
Thank you, Session Chair. I want to be very brief as well. It's been a long day and we might begin to repeat ourselves, and that thing about something diminishing, what is that thing called?
Diminishing returns. Diminishing returns.
I asked this question, Dr. David and Jagere, the other time when we met. So we already had our 746, which was pretty close to the 6. And if the argument is that we needed not to reduce the secondary, we didn't need to increase the secondary, we needed to reduce, then we already had such a plan. Mm-hmm. We already knew we had the Asian tigers. We already knew about the sessional plan. We already knew about how they'd come to to benchmark here, we already knew all that. Then we took ourselves to 844. We always learn as we move along, and when we go back in our history in education, of course, from Sinai and Plan to Mackay to Ginakadafi, with all those commissions, there was always a bit of a to and fro, and I guess we get experience as we go along. So it's not a critique. Maybe it is a hope that we've got it right. Maybe it is a hope that we don't go back again to say other forms of years. This is my prayer. Then number 2 is the issue of the assessment. I liked what you said when you said quantitative, a bit of qualitative. I've been looking through some of the reports of their children behind the children of this movie. You know, yeah. So, for example, I'm more interested in the qualitative part. And you know, Daktari, that as much as we talk about qualitative, even qualitative is measurable to some extent.
Yeah.
So what sort of language are we going to use there? Because I've seen they've done well, they've understood this. The one who hasn't understood, will they be written they did not understand? They excelled, they understand, they are able to apply. The one who is not able to apply, how am I at a 0? And this is fine, because that's a normal distribution, it will happen. And when we talk about teachers and not trusting them, we're not saying we don't trust the teachers. We have to be very careful not to distort any information we give ourselves here. Because we know, for example, we have something called recency effect in development. So, for example, if you're a good politician and you want them to remember when you're voting, you've got to do the development just before. That's recency. It's just automatic, it'll happen. If you ask me to rate myself, and you give me 40 and 50 and 60 and 70 and 70 and 80, your guess is as good as mine. You know, so we have to be very, you know, we've got to get academic with these arguments. And then, I've lost my glasses over lunchtime, so
No,
I can't
I have
read.
it.
You have them?
Yeah.
Oh. I'll give you something.
You'll give me something.
Is it true? I'm not really. Yeah. So I think also that we are not funny.
The eyes are not able to see.
So what you've done, I can't use yours. What you've done,
Where
I
are
think, in terms of CBC and as the Ministry of Education, as the various stakeholders, you've done very well. When we hear the public talking the way they are talking, it's probably because they don't have the information. So probably our publicity arm or our warriors in this, if we give these briefs, we've been explained to how many people are hearing our explanations. Okay. Then another aspect I wanted to bring is, I know, and I don't want to hear somebody say, why is she asking about parents? Doesn't she know we don't teach parents? The thing I want to go to is parents. You know, by the time this parent is saying you should be an engineer, this is a powerful force, by the way. We'll interfere with our CBC, and we can't teach the parent at the end of the day. We can't teach the parent. But I like the way CBC involves the parents. And I'm hoping they'll be able to tweak their thinking as they interact with the child, that let me look for the gifts of this child. Some might and some might not. So I don't know whether there's something we can do, maybe generally, just as a strategy. Maybe through publicity, maybe through things that we say, I don't know. I'm just thinking that if we are to achieve this, that the parents become a big group of stakeholders who can actually take us behind. I want to stop there. If I see something else, I'll ask to come back again.
Okay, I think,
Dr. Yes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me thank the 2 presenters for the great presentation. Indeed, we got to learn even great things that are going on in the TSC right now, and that is appreciated. We are happy that you're even forward looking right now in terms of teacher preparedness. I think the future will not have this firefighting management that we are almost starting right now. I think Senator Sally has already asked a similar question that I had in the morning myself in terms of parents. If parents are not cooperative, what do you do? I've given a good example of the UK, where parents can walk to school and then they are saying their kids the son with the mass. That one is not abnormal. During our time, we have parents coming to school to meet teachers for partnership kids. Now that we are incorporating them to take their kids through this CPC, how are we going to ensure this? Or rather, unless you sit maybe at KICD or maybe the ministry and wherever to come up with something like all the time sensitizing parents and discouraging them from some of the issues that we are learning from areas like the UK, where we feel that one was a bad it was not a positive behavior. And then now you're already rolling out one of my queries in the morning was also issue of stakeholders when you are piloting. So have you now brought on board all stakeholders so that as we move towards that is grade 6 right now, nobody will come and complain this time the way we are getting these complaints. So we shall be able to show that this we involved each and every stakeholder. So how are you engaging all the stakeholders as you go to piloting grade 6 stages? But that is for, I think this cuts across. I'm sure we are almost entering into the assessment stage, Senator Musrufe. I mean the plenary stage where we are asking everyone, not necessarily the CEO, NEC, or any other. I mean anyone can answer this. So when it comes to stakeholder, it touches KICD, it touches even the TSC, it touches the Ministry of Education as well as NEC. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Now, as we continue, I think a question that can come out that probably would be interested in you answering, the Ministry, the KICD, NEC, and the Ministry of Education. And I don't know whether the Ministry of Education has a presentation, because we wouldn't want to lock you out. Aga. Okay, yeah, because we don't want to lock anyone out. But if there's any question that any stakeholders might want to bring on board also, probably we need to give you a chance, just maybe in terms of clarification or anything that may not be very clear. So this is your time. Any one of you who is here and has a concern, we will not lock out.
Are we allowed to ask?
Yeah, you are also allowed to ask, and we'll answer what you're able to do in terms of legislation and financing for education, because actually that is the area we are really able to do as your voice. And before you ask us, would be also be interested in knowing how do these ministries, the Ministry of Education, NEC, and KICD, what is it that you do together to ensure that you're able to implement the CBC? At what point, what is your interconnection? And are you able to meet frequently and really assess the progress, and also the lacuna there is? It's always good. And also, do you also have a research team that is going out to see what the stakeholders are saying, the gap areas that they are, and how you can fill? So
made by the current primary schools in the rollout of the CBEC curriculum, I think that part has been well handled. We've gotten a sense already of the role played. One of the presenters, when you were presenting, said we are getting ready. I think it was Dr. David who said, and Jegere who said, now when I come back to make a presentation, so maybe I need to seek guidance for the teams in this section, the section 3, where we have CSO, CEO, TSC, NEC, and KICD. Did you have specific presentations for this session 3? Do you have like prepared papers for this session, or you don't?
Yeah, the ones we made.
Yes.
So this session 3 was basically to deal
It was
with
already been
issues
subsumed.
that are recent from the other funds.
Exactly. So it's already, this section has already been subsumed in what we've already discussed. So what we're trying to do is just extract what has not yet come out, and as we answer, then what we can do is also be doing like closing remarks.
Correct.
So that everybody after, for example, we start with KCID, Daktari, you give us the answers to those questions, you give us your insights, and then you go to some of these issues which are mainly the marginalization and how it has been handled, and then the issue of coordination and interface and fusion between the various stakeholder players, where you think those links might be, where you think the great chain links might be, and then you can leave it at that, and then we go to TSC in that order. We go to TSC and have, because I'm going to these two because you're the ones who already have been on the session, and we've asked questions, and in our enthusiasm, in fact, after the TSC presentation and also the KCID, very excited. We were like, now we want to get into the TSC one, but I think because of time, so we went, we quickly moved from TSC, went quickly to KCID, KICD. So now we're going back, so that now we just get a little bit of that, and then from there we'll move to TSC. It will move to, we've done NEC, so we'll start with NEC. You know, your folder here is saying KCID. That's why it's giving me all this repetition. Okay, so we'll start with we'll go to NEC because that was the last presentation, and then we'll go to TSC. This is where we haven't gotten feedback. We got feedback already from KCD earlier on. So we'll give them a chance just to say if there's anything more they want to add, and then we'll finally end with Ministry of Education as a wrap-up to all these issues, and then concluding remarks, and then if there's anything left in terms of plenary, any few more questions, we could ask them, and then I think we'll all leave here satisfied that the questions we've come and asked have been well answered, and we really thank you for this. In between, the person who asked these questions is Senator Were, and I was saying it would have been really nice for her to have been here too, but she is away on other duties. But we will communicate that we are very happy. The spirit that led her to ask this question was the best spirit, because it has brought out so much, and I'm sure we're well contextualized even at Senate to handle some of the issues that will come even on the floor of the House. So straight away, let's go to now the presenter. Oh, yes.
Okay, sorry, maybe at that point again, in case you have any legislative proposal you want us to handle, even through motions and what have you, so that we can be able to tighten issues. I think this is the time to propose, so that as we do our presentations, we shall take up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we straight away go to NEC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senators. I think the questions that were asked for NEC, the first one on the issue of and the same questions came up, particularly on the education of the deaf. The questions are valid, and as NEC we are making sure that even for the current exams we will raised the bar in as far as invigilation, supervision, and marking of the scripts for these learners is concerned. So much as we are focusing on CBC, we also know that we still have 3 cohorts of KCPE and 7 cohorts of KCSE, and we have to continue taking care of them. So I don't want to argue and say it's not true. It is true. We have issues, and we are going to address them. The question about the number of years, I'm glad that Senator is just saying we hope it's not going to become a pendulum. Because 1 minute it's this side, the next minute it's the other side. But we are hoping that the basic education curriculum framework, if Parliament can make a statement that says, almost like the Constitution, that it doesn't matter, because it's not a political issue. Whoever comes into power, whether at the level of president or at the level of cabinet secretary or whoever you are, you cannot just come and change anything in the education structure, system, curriculum, without going back to the framework and telling us what is wrong with the framework. Because that's the problem. That when we leave it to discretion, that I can come and decide whatever I want implemented, then that's where we start going wrong. And I hope that now that we have the framework, that it can be recognized by Parliament, because you are the only ones who can legislate.
So this might be a quick amendment to the Basic Education Act.
Maybe.
Just a quick amendment.
Yeah, just to say that, if you want to do any changes, you have to tell us what you have seen is wrong, and it must be based on research, not just discretionary. You have to tell us why you want to change that. So I think that can give us a more stable system. The issues of qualitative, what will happen is at the beginning, there will, of course, as we begin this process, there will be a bit of uncertainties. But the qualitative will be reported under 4 parameters: exceeding expectations, meeting expectations, approaching expectations, or below expectations. Under each one of those, we have given the indicators. So that if we say if we can get one person from KICD to share the designs, any copy of design with the senators, and show them the specific place where we are giving the assessment rubrics. We are not saying the teacher will just decide this is exceeding or this is approaching. We have given the indicators. So which indicators tell you that this child is exceeding or this child is meeting? This child is able to do the following things.
So we have to be careful that education is passed out,
Yeah.
so that quickly people don't do it in quarters.
Exactly.
That this quarter means 0 to 25, and this one here is 25 to 50%.
Exactly. Yes.
We hear what you say.
The indicators are the ones to help you arrive at the category, whether it's exceeding or meeting or approaching or below. So those indicators are the ones that will guide in that sense. As far as communication is concerned, I think I'll leave this to the ministry, because they are the ones who are driving the change. But allow me to comment and say we had already anticipated. If you look at the basic education curriculum framework, under the title Guiding Principles, one of the guiding principles we came up with way back in 2017 was parental empowerment and engagement. We acknowledged that this cannot succeed unless we empower the parents. So that was already acknowledged. How we have done it, I think KICD has come up with some guidelines on that parental empowerment and engagement. But I think it has to be embraced in a more broad way, because we must get to the point where, I don't want to get into the philosophy, but if you go back to 1965, the sessional paper number 10 of 1965, it explained very clearly that we are Africans and we operate in a community. So there's something called community parenting.
Yeah.
So that if there is a parent in a community, maybe who is illiterate, that community should not allow that child to go without some guidance. And that's what used to happen in the past. So I think we need to redeem ourselves in that direction, so that in case there are some parents who, for whatever reason, are unable to support their children to the extent we would like them to, there has to be an element of community parenting. We have so many young people in our communities today who have gone to school, but they're just idling all over the place. Why can't there be an initiative to bring those young people and allow them to help where we have parents perhaps who are experiencing challenges, instead of having them roaming all over the place? There's a program we had started which was called G United. It was a very positive program because that's what we were trying to do. G United was based in the office of the deputy president, but it died. I don't know what happened. And we were sending young people to go and live in the communities to help the learners in the primary schools. So that if, for example, it's issues of reading to the child, we know there are many parents who cannot read to children, but those young people can be reading aloud to those children instead of just sitting mongero in the village. But then what will also help us a lot is when parents will be able to appreciate that in CBC, the success of the child is not tied to the grades they get in these subjects that they are being offered. The success of the child is tied to how much we are able to know the abilities of that child. Like now, your child is in grade 5. The most important thing you can do with your child is to get to understand your child very well. Then, allow them to appreciate that those who are very good in math, that is very good. But if your child is only good in performing arts, it doesn't mean that they are of an inferior place in society because they are not scientists. So that encouragement, that's why we are saying parents must come in very strongly. Because there is this notion that if your child is not good in math, science and all that, then your child is not good enough. Parents don't even want to talk about their children when they meet in their chamas. If their child is not good in math, they don't want to talk about it. Their child could be very good in performing arts. So we want parents to feel proud of their children if that's what they are good at. So this element of parental empowerment will be so important. We can't do it alone. And we will really be looking out to especially our politicians, that if you could find a moment, like now we are entering the season of electioneering, just find a moment when those crowds are there, just to mention something that you parents, especially the young people, I mean, they are the ones who will be coming to most of those forums. Your child, don't push your child to where they should not be. And we have seen so many of those cases where a parent insists that this child must get the marks by hook or crook. Fortunately, what we share with the IEBC and the political class is that KNEC, like IEBC, has candidates. KNEC has candidates, IEBC has candidates, and both of them have the same interests. So, if we can make this not just the work of the ministry, that we have everybody, religious leaders in church, everyone speaking the same language, telling parents, please encourage your children, tell them that if you are good in visual arts, you are good in drawing, that is good enough. It will be a career, you can, all those things. That is what will help us to get where we need to go. And we are looking at even getting ambassadors, so that if there's someone like Kipchoge, the guy who's run sub whatever in sub 2 hours in the marathon. Why can't we use Kipchoge to encourage all the children who are good in sports?
Yeah.
Because in schools, if you are good in sports, there is a way that they talk about you that wewe maneno ya hesabu wachana nao, enda ukakimbie kwa uwanja. They should be told you are as good as the doctors. And we can't do this alone. We need to bring in all these ambassadors. The next question was about collaboration. I think I'll leave that to the ministry to talk about how we bring all the departments together. Challenges that NEC is facing. Hii ni ngumu sana. You know, I'm only three months old as CEO in NEC. And the first thing that as soon as I arrived there, Treasury issued a list of 18 state corporations which are in the red, and NEC was one of them. That, you know, we have a huge deficit. And that deficit, we are not complaining about it because we know it is what helped us to redeem the image of Kenya. We redeemed the image of this country since 2016, and now any Kenyan can go anywhere in the world, and then when they go with a certificate, everybody says your certificate is credible. That is great. But the cost to NEC as an institution is that now we have a deficit of over 2 billion. Because we have to continue administering credible exams. That's why I said values are so important. If we don't get values, that's a cost. When we have a society that has no values, the cost is that for you to administer credible exams, it is very expensive. So if we can see that CBC, by emphasizing values, it may help to reduce the cost of administering exams, maybe. But if we continue with this system where everybody wants to cheat, then the cost continues to rise, and NEC feels that pressure because we don't have adequate resources. But I'm sure resources, but we need a little more. We are not asking for too much. We're just asking, help us to clear the deficit so that we are able to concentrate. The CEO can't concentrate on all these things if all you are thinking about is about the deficits. The last issue about the marginalized areas of the country, I think one of the things that we will really like to address this is in the sense of the summative assessment at the end of grade 6. For us as NEC, that is the most important thing that we can do. Because every child in the country, regardless of where they are, they will have access to the alliance of this country. That's a way of creating equity. Because if we had not done that, it would therefore mean that only the children who are near alliance will access alliance. And since we know historically, most of these national schools are concentrated in a few parts of the country, then that would create an equity challenge. My proposal to you. There has been a lot of talk in the country when people look at the 2 empty classes in primary school. Some people feel that those classes should be used for junior secondary school. That will be a challenge because junior secondary school, 2 factors will make it challenging to put in primary. Because one, primary schools have no labs. So you can't offer junior secondary school without a lab. Because remember that junior secondary is where you are now identifying which children will pursue pure sciences, applied sciences, especially for STEM. So if you now take them to that level and there are no labs, we are just looking at 2 empty classes, but we are not looking at where is the lab. There is no primary school in this country that has a lab. So clearly that argument will give us a problem. The second factor is what we have been saying about making sure that we have quantity and quality in secondary. If you look at the paper, and I will share with you, it talks about quantity and quality, and it clearly says that countries like Thailand, why they lagged behind, is they concentrated more on university education. They did not increase the quantity, and therefore, that's why they are not part of the Asian Tigers. They even compare Britain and Germany, and they say, why Germany overtook Britain in industrialization is because Germany invested more in secondary education, both quantity and quality. So if we get into this temptation of seeing some 2 empty classes in a primary school and say use those to be junior secondary, we will be affecting the quality and quantity of secondary education. But then my proposal is this. We know that the foundation for a child, so that they can grow up and acquire the formative, both physical and mental, for them to be successful in education, lies in early childhood. The first 5 years, those are the ones that make or break the child. First 5 years. Fortunately, those first 5 years, by the Constitution in Schedule 4, has given them to the Senate. They are under you, because that's been assigned to the county governments. So these first 5 years, year 0 to 3, mainly it's about nutrition. And where there are all these studies that say vitamin A, the time it takes before the child, and I think Ruth Mugambi can speak to that better than I. The earliest the child starts getting vitamin A determines how well the brain develops. So, 0 to 3, that is the child care role that the Constitution has assigned to the counties, and it is the Senate to deal with that. But then let's look at year 4 to 5, which is the pre-primary. How comes no one has looked at this as an opportunity to have pre-primary in every primary school? Because we will now have 2 empty classes in every primary school, because primary will now be 6 years. But instead of having the temptation to bring secondary to primary, it is easier to say, once we have vacated the 2 classes, then we will have every primary school in this country will have 2 empty classes to offer pre-primary 1 and pre-primary 2. We will have universal access to pre-primary education. So that's why I was thinking that this is a grand opportunity for Senate to lobby national government for that trade-off that we can, anyway, I'm not a politician. You understand better how that can be done. So thank you very much.
Very much. Thank you very much for that real insightful presentation and answer to questions. And you know, this pre-primary and primary, I think, resonates, because I think there's also that psychological bit as you move, apart from the labs, even that psychological bit, you're finished with primary, now you're moving somewhere else. And if with that equation, it doesn't change the situation for the secondary schools, then maybe another strategy straight away would be just to ensure that all those labs that are very necessary are put into place. If the findings you're presenting as critical as they are to us, it means as we take action, we are copying Germany, we are using the examples of the Asian tigers that succeeded and putting more effort at secondary school. So I think apart from labs, everything else that needs to be taken into consideration, the social, cultural, administrative, educational, really, we shouldn't just look at it, and of course the syllabus will be there and the curriculum will be there, but really infuse all this, targeting that output, that this is the critical timing for the Rostorian takeoff that we are so eagerly looking for. Let me ask, Chair, do you want to add something to that? Or we ask the TSC to TSC kindly, yeah, in the interest of
Can I
time.
request all of you to stand? Many of you said you have been in TSC, so if you don't stand, I might deregister you. Now stress for a minute, just like that, and then down. Then you can be seated. Thank you.
So simple.
Thank you, Chair, for this session. I I want to answer a number of questions that were asked. One of the questions was, after the teachers finish the 9 months training, the upgrade, if they will be absolved. I want to say there is a policy of absolving teachers. And remember, I didn't indicate that we have over 300,000 out there.
You say.
Yes. So, and automatically in this country, one of the aspects of employment is fairness. So we will be looking at all the modalities within policy of how those teachers will be absorbed, but within policy. So it is not an automatic aspect that after they finish the 9 months, they will be picked and taken to class. Because now it will again be raised. What about the ones who have not gone and it was not their mistake? So that has to be sorted out amicably. And within policy, it will be laid out. How do we absorb? Because even as these teachers are come before they finish, we will still be employed. So we will still be doing the normal employment. So policy will be put on board. But automatically, once we have been able to have almost all the other teachers who are out there, having gone through the course, the requirement then will be put that you need to be CBC compliant.
Yeah.
But until we have sorted out all of them, we have to put mechanisms and policies to make sure even those ones who are not gone are absorbed. I think that is within policy. Who is paying for them? They are paying for themselves. The teachers are paying for themselves. They are going back for the 9 months like a police service for them to be compliant. Because the truth of the matter, let be told, the country has decided to go CBC. The system of education is no longer the way it was. Now, if it is that one, and you want to be a teacher, and you have gone through the other one, then you as a teacher, then you are not meeting the requirements. So what we are saying, go through this so that you can be CBC compliant. That is why you find the new diploma as very strict entry requirements, not like the other one. That's why it has not attracted everybody. Because the question we have been asking ourselves, does lawyers attract everybody? Does engineers attract everybody? Do doctors attract everybody? Now, anybody who is saying those are professions. Why are they professions? One, they are entry requirements. Secondly, they are professional development training. And thirdly, the way they are remunerated. So teaching has to reach there. If we have to call it a profession, if we are talking about professionalizing the teaching service, then those 3 elements must be inbuilt. And that is the journey we have started. And so we are looking for Senate to support that professionalizing teaching service means the entry grades of a teacher should not be like, you know, I went to teaching when I missed every other course.
Yeah.
It should be like the way the German chancellor was asked, why do you pay teachers more? And he asked everybody, why should I not pay them and they are the ones that have made you? So, if we want to professionalize teaching, let's think about the entry requirements. Let's think about the teacher professional development. Let's think about how are they motivated and remunerated. That way we will have a profession where we are talking about professionalizing. But if we keep on saying we need to lower the entry grades, yeah? In some countries, it is the teachers with a master's who teach the ECD. But in Kenya, so Senate should rise up to the occasion and tell us, do we want that way? So when we find Teachers Service Commission, one of our regulators is to make sure the entry grades for the teaching service are maintained. One of it is to make sure we have given the entering grades that can begin to make a teacher feel, I want to be a teacher. So that is the reason. So the teachers have to pay for themselves so that they can get into what is required. And we are asking universities, the other question was universities, we have given them the new areas. KICD has even shared with them the new areas. They have even got into discussion with the KICD. And we have even had very many meetings with the university deans of faculties. You saw in the papers, when we did say that we want the B.Ed program properly organized, what came out? The outcry that this can't work. You know, change is painful and resisted. But what we are saying, TSC is the client. I am the one who takes the teacher. Sometimes the argument will be, we are not training only for TSC. It is okay. But now, even as we talk today, you cannot go to teach in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, when you do not have the teacher professional development. Our teachers are being asked, where is the course that you do that keeps you to be embraced with the teaching? Kenya, we don't have. So they have been told to return. Now when they return, when do they run? Teacher Service Commission. They didn't fulfill the requirements. So where are they now? And it is very frustrating when you churn out students or teachers who cannot be registered by the commission, by the virtue that you trained them, because you are not training them for Kenya. When they go out there, they are asked, where is your registration certificate? So it is either they follow the entering grades, and what is even exciting, Kenya Colleges and Kenya Colleges Placement Board has decided now even to make it more stringent. It has handed every teacher who wants to be trained for B.Ed and BA, B.Ed Art and B.Ed Science, must have a C plane in English and a C plane in mathematics. That has been decided. So why are they doing that? It is to make sure English is for language of instruction. The challenges we are having today, if you look at some of the letters the teachers are writing, it has very many spelling mistakes. They are the ones that are teaching in class. We want to have very qualified teachers who can communicate. That is why even the Kenya Placement Board has decided that this needs to be like that. So it is a question of what do we want best for our teacher, the future of the teacher in the country. The 21st century teacher has to have all those things that we talked about. How are we building that teacher? So we have sat with the universities, and we are continuing to teach, to sit and even to share with one another on the issues of entry requirements, because we would want to get a professionalized teacher. And that one, we are not relenting on it, because we need to have the universities understand the new areas. Now they begin even to train they have been offering, say, some subjects that have overstaffed, that we have too many teachers. So we are telling them, guys, these subjects have quite a number of teachers. Now these other subjects don't have teachers. Why can't you train them, and there is already a market? So that is the kind of engagement that we are having with them now. 2 weeks ago, we had all the vice chancellors. We want to talk to them. We talk to them. We are having a meeting again with all the vice chancellors and the deans, so that they can align their courses. Some universities have run very quickly. They have begun aligning their degree courses to CBC. They are consulting with the KICD, they are consulting with the KNEC in line with that. And we are telling them the content must be the content we want, aligned to CBC. So we are saying the teacher of the future is this way. And we are not relenting into that one. So that discussion is there. And one of the things that we have also requested all of them through their regulator, Q, is that every tutor, every lecturer in the colleges need to be trained on CBC. We have made that now that very clear to them. Because there is no way you can be training teachers for us when you have not yourself been CBC compliant. And I can tell you, KNEC is having a lot of time to train some of those universities and see what they can be able to learn. So these are some of the things that we have really brought on board. And we are hoping the universities are going to follow because we are the client. You know, if I decide I want to eat nyama choma, you can't tell me I must eat cooked meat boiled. No. That is the reality. So we have told them this is the kind of the teacher we need. So go and look for that teacher. Because we have fought the battles, senators. I want to tell you this afternoon. We have fought in battles where universities and maintained students who did not have entering grades, they finish and they come to TSC for registration. They cannot be registered. You look at the pain in the eyes of those teachers and you feel so bad. So we have told them, please save us this. And that is not what is happening. They have gone to do it, and we are hoping they will follow. The other question is that do we give certificates of the training of the teachers? The ones that we have been doing, we have not given them the certificates. The reason is the course is not finished. And in this country, we must stop this business of if you go for this kind of course for this number of days, you should get a certificate. If you go for this, you should go for a certificate. A certificate should be something valued. And for the Teacher Service Commission, when it comes to CBC, the teachers who are in service will be looked at the number of courses they have done within the holidays. It will be checked vis-a-vis the upgrade program. So that if it is having a gap, they will be required when we normalize the COVID period. You know, it is up to 2022 and we will go back to the normal school program. We are hoping so. Once we normalize, even the teachers who are in service today, they will be able to get to make sure they reach that level so that they are also at the diploma level with the other teachers. So that is going to be done. But we cannot disturb the situation now because the COVID period is very tight. So we can't tell them to go. Even when we are training them, remember we are training within them like a short period of closure. But we remember the program will be a very tight program for how to make sure they have also been upgraded to the diploma. So that is what we are basically doing for them. So they will get the certificate once that is sorted. Their units are covered, the content is covered, the period is covered, and then they can be told they can also get that kind of a certificate. So that is the issue. So they will also go through that kind of a training. On the issue of the selection of the junior schools, I think David has covered that, and I don't want to talk much about it. What areas are we working together? I want to say that I had forgotten in my presentation when I was taking you through to indicate that CBC training is done through a multi-agency approach. Teacher Service Commission coordinates, and it is done by Ministry of Education officials, quality assurance, and basic education. They are master trainers. KNEC are master trainers, and they are the ones who develop the content. Kenya National Examination Council are master trainers, and they are the ones who develop content for assessment. Semaster deals with the science in this country. They are part also of master trainers. Kemi deals with issues of financial management and accounts. They are also part of CBC trainers. And then Kise deals with the special needs, they are also part of the master trainers and TSC itself. So that is the multi-agency approach. So we draw master trainers from these bodies, and they are the ones who train. So it is a multi-agency approach that we really coordinate. And when we are doing monitoring, we monitor Ministry of Education, Teacher Service Commission, KNEC, Semester, KICD. We go out to monitor what is happening together. So we work as a team. Anything done in the training of teachers must be able to follow that procedure. So in other words, we do not do it alone. What are the challenges that TSC is facing? Realizing the numbers of teachers that we have and the money that Treasury gives. Treasury allocates for us an entire year 1 billion. One training of teachers takes 500 million. And we train the teachers of grade 1 teacher, and in grade 4 or 5, 2 teachers. Because we train the entire country, all the primary schools in the nation of Kenya, all of them. So there is no primary school which is left out, both in the special needs and in the regular. And on top, the private schools. So you can see the mammoth. So if we can be able to get more funds, that will be a great plus for us as a commission. Because 500 million that we get is only able to train, you saw the numbers per session. So if you give us more, then it becomes easier. But now, looking at even the way ahead, we are getting into secondary, 7, 8, and 9, where we have teachers based on their subject areas. You know, in primary, it was easier because the primary school teaches everything. Now in secondary, we will be training the teachers vis-a-vis their subject areas. That means it will require more period and it will require more money. So that is what the thinking is. So that is why we are really saying we need more money. But what we are going also to be doing is to think about other methods other than face-to-face of training the teachers. And one of it is online, where we are going to be building a portal, upload all the materials there, have online tutors who can engage teachers on a continuous basis so that they can be able to learn. That is one of the aspects that we have. So then if we have to do that, then we need to build an education portal which requires resources. We need the issue of internet connectivity to maintain that portal. We need the tutors and the upkeep of making sure that that process goes on. So you can see the situation even now gets higher. But when we get online, it means we can now do a continuous training of the teachers and we have no challenge. Because automatically, we have to think of the new normal. Yeah. Now that COVID has come, we have to think of the new normal. And I can tell you, we have trained our teachers on remote methodologies. So we are looking at that and seeing what exactly is going to happen. Are we including all the counties? Yes. For us, there is no like any marginalized county. And I want you to go and find out from your counties. Ask all the senators to find out if there is any zone without teacher training in this country. And if there are even the special needs institutions that are not included. So we have no marginalization for us as Teachers Service Commission. And so we really look forward to see how we can make sure the training of the teachers continue, even with better methods. Like now we have the remote methodologies. We want even to have virtual classrooms where we can identify a school in Nairobi and a school in Mandera And we put gadgets. We have actually started that project. We are on the pilot of it. We have identified Stalem boys, Alliance boys, Pangani girls to be our principal schools. And we are identifying schools in the marginal areas who may have challenges of a teacher in chemistry. So they log in and they watch the teacher live and they can ask the teacher questions. So those are some of the things that as a commission we are thinking about. And we are really looking for support, for funding on it. And once we are able to do that, then it will be easier to handle the issue of shortages. As a commission, we are determined to see that every school in this country is given teachers. But remember, the budget you have given us is only for 5,000. And only 10,000 interns. Is it possible? And this is my proposal. Is it possible for Senate to increase our budget and we get 10,000 teachers being employed and then 20,000 interns? That way, we will be able to say, actually, something is happening. In recruitment, we recruit everybody fairly. There's an online criteria, which all of you know, you have always seen. Teachers will go online and fill their details, and they are ranked, and we send the ranking list in the counties.
Okay.
They do interviews. The same with the promotion. So we don't marginalize anybody. And we have engaged with you on these issues, and you have seen it, the plainness that is there today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Ndamburi, I think you can, I could sense in the room that we see you can go on with this for another 2 hours. I could see that people are fidgety. They are getting worried whether you are in one of those days. From the body language I could see. But it also shows that TSC has a very good trajectory, you know, and that is very encouraging. Chair will address the issues of the monies. I'll be very brief because we also want to move to a close. We've been sitting for a long time and we are 1 hour beyond our program, but it's all for the good. So it's clear. You know, the issue of the pre-service is clear. The issue of the finances, Chair will handle, and then we'll find the strategy of how to go on with it. The only thing that you haven't brought out, which I think was also in that statement, was the issue of cost, because I understand this is the pre-service training that the teachers are going to pay for themselves to do. This is different from the training that you're doing at CBC level. Yes. So, and what I see in the media and in the newspaper is that the teachers are saying, how would we pay this 5,000 for this pre-service?
That's a different program.
That's a different program?
Different program. The one the teachers are talking about paying is the teacher professional development.
Yes.
Not CBC agreed.
Okay. Okay.
One of the teacher professional
And that is different. It doesn't fall under TSC.
No.
Where does it fall?
It is a TSC program.
Yes.
Which is for regulatory purposes.
Exactly, but the issue of cost then still comes in. And how do we handle, and whichever program it is, because it is in the media, and that's what I've picked out, that is the issue, the cost. And what they're saying is that we are happy for, if we are sponsored, for example, by the government, we are happy to go on with it. So maybe just 1 minute for a feedback comment on that. You can do it from there. We are a bit worried when you get there. Okay. Yes, thank you.
The teacher professional development for Teacher Service Commission is a regulatory issue. That when you look at the code of regulation and when you look at the documents, the TSC Act, they require the teachers to have a teaching certificate. And a teaching certificate is like a practicing certificate for lawyers and doctors. So this program has been developed for the teachers, and it will be undertaken by service providers. The service providers were identified competitively through a procurement process. And we negotiated this program with them. And what we are saying, this program is going to be, teachers will be paying per year 6,000. But we are saying it is not a program that they will pay once, that money. We have agreed with the service providers, they will look for a flexible mode of payment. And there are two of them. One is that a teacher can be paying 500 shillings per month for the 12 months. Or a teacher can be paying 20 shillings per day through an M-Pesa mode. And remember, being a regulatory aspect, lawyers pay for their professional development. I did indicate the reason why we are having a challenge today with even the way the remuneration of the teachers is. When we won't go to argue at the SRC, one of the aspects is what professional development programs do they do to develop themselves to see their current.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that is the kind of thinking that is there. But we are having negotiations, we are talking with the unions, we are talking with the associations in order to build them and to make them understand. This is not a question of that we are doing it at the expense of what they are having.
Okay, thank you. I think that clarification is important, and this is really like a professional certification.
Yes.
The way you have for all the other professions. So maybe it's just the issue of understanding and maybe breaking down that cost. We thank you. I think we give him a clap for that clarification. Thank you very much. We want to move to KICD, and I think they'd already made quite a presentation. I see Professor Ongondo is not there. Do you really want to say something more, or you feel you've said it all? Or you're ready for something? So maybe we give you like 5 minutes. Will that seem unfair?
Even less.
Okay, fine. Just a wrap up.
Even
I
less.
think we've got a good gist of the going on. So maybe just about a few minutes just to give us the response and add on to that. And then we give time to the Ministry of Education.
Before the CEO left, he had the issues and also prepared some points of talking. And Senator, you are correct. On the other side, Dr. Dhamburi is a preacher. And he can do it the whole day. So when it comes to preaching about CBC and TSE, he can go on. I think from us, and even what you have heard from KNEC, the teacher is at the center of not only curriculum development, but even implementation to the end. Because they are the ones to do the CBA, the competency-based assessment. But for us, we just want to affirm the development process that was captured by the CEO very elaborately. Mentioned that it involves teachers, practicing teachers from all over the country. And that we can attest. Songere is leading a team of 112 teachers just across the road at Masanda Hotel, adapting grade 6 course books for SNE, and they are from all the counties in Kenya. What does that tell us? It tells us that when we are contextualizing and bringing in suggested learning experiences, they cover. And therefore this brings equity in the curriculum developed because it is picking from everywhere and allows then at the implementation point to bring equity in learning. And curriculum has always been good. You can know the great people who have come from very, what you can say, remote corners of this country, because the curriculum has been good. That development, we wanted to reassure the Senate that every element is that inclusive, covering the entire county, so that we bring that and we bring it across. The other point to clarify is when we indicated that we are aware that there's 1,119 schools that don't have DLP devices. Mainly, these are schools born after 2016. And this number, you can say when it was captured, today it could be different, because another number of schools have also been registered. And the goal here is to just make sure that we continue working on it. Our requests in these areas, we had already put them in the presentation, where we would wish and I was told the one is shall and not will. I learned that we work towards zero rating any technology going to the school so that it can help. And to also clarify that the best technology for learning is the technology that the learner has. Let me just give an example. In KICD, we have said each curriculum developer should be having a CBC child ambayo unafuata so that you can feel that CBC-ness. I have 3 of them myself. They are my grandchildren. Tomorrow I'll be traveling with them to Matu. And I will tell them to capture event that we shall be having. They will have a choice to take a picture, a choice to draw, because paper is technology. We moved from the paper technology to what we have because we considered it and we appreciated it as technology. So if one can do something with one form of technology, can be able to do with the other. That's why the suggested learning experiences are that wide. And in order to also catch up and move on with time, we are saying our requests were put in the paper. And finally, is to also appreciate and request Senate support as we move to grade 7, 8, and 9, the junior secondary, and as we move to those pathways that are there, so that as we move towards that direction, then we can have that Kenya that we desire, or people towards industrialization. Allow me, Chair, as we conclude, because we are now coming back to the floor, to request you to allow our Chair of Council to say the final KICD remarks.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to take the shortest time possible. I want, one, to assure you that from where I've been sitting, we have been taking notes as a council. I want to assure you that from here, we shall be fast-tracking the implementation of the proposals that you have given us, where you have guided us to go and see what can be done. We shall follow up with our technical persons who are the management. So I want to assure you that this day, what has been generated here will go a long way in ensuring that we better what we have already done as we go on to implement this very important project to our nation. We have been engaging other stakeholders, and rarely have we had stakeholders like you. We have no words to really appreciate what you have taken us through today. The patience and the focus you have. Actually, in other forums, we have had people who are coming charged to bog us with a lot of questions. But today we have met professionals who are ready to build. We want to appreciate that very much. And I, again, want to assure you that we shall do our best to have this grandchild of your Senate member really taken care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Now, now that one were the shoes of the chair KICD.
Yes,
I want to wear some different shoes and give you a very small request. As the chair of Kenya Primary Schools Head Teachers Association, I want to remind the Senate that there is a team of several millions of children who have really not been taken care of well. I'm saying this because we all know the economic situation in this country. And for many, many years, this child in primary has been allocated only 1,400 per year to provide education. Actually, as we have moved on, their bigger brothers in the secondary were once given 10,000, then 14,000, now it's over 20,000. This is a day secondary school child being given 20,000 and a day primary school child being given 1,000. The rationale, I don't know. Look at a primary school employing a watchman during the day and a day secondary school employing a watchman, and they not expected to pay the same salary, or this one of primary is from which other country? What I'm pleading with you is, as you go, as you deliberate on other issues, please consider funding in primary schools in this country. Thank you very much. May God bless you.
Thank you very much. Can we clap for KSCD? And really, just to assure you that this is the work we enjoy to do. And meeting like this gives us the direction. And as I said earlier, some of these have been picked up by both our research team and our legislative team. The easiest and fastest way of getting information and pushing an agenda is through statements, the way we have done. So that now we bring the stakeholder. The issue you have raised at the end of the 1,400 definitely needs a very quick review that needs to be handled. It is a serious matter. Sometimes these serious matters are there, but when they're seized off, the way we have seized of this, I think it becomes very, very important. And over lunch, we discussed about other legislative proposals, and we were saying because we are very close to end of term, it is good to also bring these as quick amendments to various parental acts. So we are picking on these, and I know Chair has a list of these, and she'll be mentioning them as we do the closing remarks. I think that is very key and very, very important. And then the issue of zero rating also, that is a legislative matter. We assure you that as a committee, we want to be as practical and as functional as we possibly can. And that's why Senator Musurove earlier said within a legislative framework, and also within an interactive framework with other stakeholders, because then we can influence. And I think that I like the idea of statements, because these various, for example, like the National Treasury, can come and explain, and we can begin to push for that agenda. And that agenda can also be pushed further for budgets. And I just want to urge even that as a committee, as we transition, that we have a secretariat that tends to remain stable. So some of these factors need to be pushed further, even as we go into the budget, where we as Senate get a chance to speak up to some of these issues. So I just wish to thank you very much and say when we're here, we're also really getting the crux of matter, and we want and we want to, as much as possible, be effective in addressing them. You know, that we owe to you. So, Ministry of Education, kindly, thank you very much.
A risk of talking at the end when everybody's energy is off. But I am sure all the questions that you had wanted to get answers from us have been answered by the agencies. Actually, we only have one customer. All of us, KICD, NEC, TSC, is the learner. All of us converge at the learner. That's why we do not have a line. We do not have a line between us. The collaboration, the interface, we are just like this. You see the ministry sitting in the council of KCD, the ministry sitting in the council of NEC, including the PSs personally, is a member of these councils. And the TSC implements the curriculum with the teachers. So we are actually interfaced. And for us to be able to even do better coordination, we have a multi-agency team where all the agencies are represented and they deal with CBC only. So that tells you that we do not have a situation where KIC does things without the ministry's knowledge, or KNEC does things without the ministry's knowledge. We are like that under the leadership of our cabinet secretary, and I'm sure you have interacted very closely with him, and you know how passionate he is with the CBC. Something finally I would like to say before you allow me to just give 1 minute to the special lead director, because we don't want to leave special lead out. Is that Daburi talked about the CSOs that move around to support teachers. Our former cabinet secretary, Dr. Matiang, said we have an army, we can call it an army, of close to 2,000 officers.
Sure.
Actually 2,000 officers, because we have the CSOs in the field, we have the quality assurance in the field, we have the sub-county directors, we have all these make a whole army of ensuring that things are running. And they are in every county, down all the way to the zones. That tells you how we are able to reach and ensure things are running. And these officers are used by both KICD, they are used by KNEC, they are used by TSC to ensure that nobody is left behind. So we don't talk about marginalization completely. So there we are, and we want to believe that we shall be engaging even further with you. You have engaged even before. And I must join Ms. Nzioka in saying you have been great. I have never seen politicians that sit for that long. I have never seen it. And maybe because you are mothers and we are talking about children, maybe that could be. When we are talking about children, I know mothers just have to sit there and ensure children have succeeded. I really want to appreciate. Allow me share to allow Nerea Oriku, who is the director primary, who deals with this CBC directly, and just to use 2 minutes to say what we are doing to ensure none of the children is marginalized or left behind. And thereafter, the director special need, Haga, also to say a word. And there we shall have said all that we wanted to say as a ministry.
Thank you so much, Chair Senate, together with other Senate members present and our colleagues. Yeah, as a ministry, it's okay, we are coming at the tail end of it, but it is very important for us really to bring on board what we also do, being that CBC is housed in the ministry, and particularly in my directorate. So one aspect to ensure that no learner is left out in this very great process is to ensure that we do policies. And these are policies to ensure the access to education to any child in Kenya, be it a foreigner, but as long as you're within the boundaries of Kenya, we ensure that your right to education is given. Another thing is equity. My colleagues have talked about it. I'm not going to elaborate on it, but equity is very key to us. Retention, because we can have an access, but if you don't have policy and retention, then it is also still a challenge of ensuring that they stay in school. Then equality. Yeah, each and every child is equal, and they have a right to have the access to education. So as a ministry, those are some of the key roles that we play in ensuring that, and also to ensure through the Directorate of Quality Assurance that we ensure that the content that is delivered to the learner is of high quality, and such that when we eventually deliver the same to KNEC, we are not going to have that sue and cry and say that no, our learners are not yet there. But it is good with CBC, everybody has a role to play and everybody has a chance to show their potential. we also give capitation. And when we give capitation, we do not discriminate. We give to all learners within the boundaries in all our public schools. Though my colleagues are the chair, KICD, has rightfully said, it has been 1,420 for a while. When I gave capitation, and the number of schools increasing now to 23,000, and the amount remained the same from the inception, sometimes you start wondering, do I give others and leave others? And you see, as a mother, when you're cooking, from where I come from, we cook ugali and fish. So do I give a tail or the head of the fish? Or do I divide and dismantle the fish into small pieces and give everybody equal? But eventually they will go, some of them will not go very much as satisfied. So to ensure that none is marginalized, my colleague director from KCD, Mr. Kemoto, told you that we are giving books. We ensure the provision of books to all learners. And we've been out there to ensure that it is one-on-one. And one thing that we also say that where we do not have books enough, it is only because of the number of learners that have come in from our various private schools. So far, we have over 300 schools that have closed, whose learners have, gotten rooms into our public schools, and more are still coming. And we are encouraging them that any child who comes and knock at the gate of the school, let the gate be wide open. We also ensure that we create an environment, a friendly school environment for our learners by a way of giving infrastructure. But Chair, I want to tell you that sometimes it's really frustrating. When we started, we were being given 300 million to divide to 23,000 primary schools. It went to 200 million. Now it went to 140. Now I think we have 70 million. So sometimes you see it and everybody comes to you and say, my fence is broken. I do not have a class. I do not have a toilet. So you really do not know how to keep this environment friendly. Though it is really our role as a ministry to ensure that each and every learner, yearn to go to school. And for us to keep them in primary schools where perhaps where you come from, I can give an example of some of our areas that have always been in the media, and we look at them and say, wow, is that Kenya? Indeed, that is Kenya, and it is our learners who sit in those environments. So it is a big challenge, though the government is trying its best to ensure that we provide. But one thing that is a big challenge in our primary schools are the wash facilities. Yeah, you go there and in some cases you find that it is the same room shared between the pupils and the teachers. And it is a reality. The other aspect that we have taken to also to create that environment of friendly learning and to ensure that we do not marginalize any child within the boundaries of Kenya is to provide sanitary pads to the girls. Girls from class 6 to 8. Though again, unfortunately for us this year, it has also been reduced by half. So when I was doing my calculations, I said, fine, better a little than nothing. So we are only now taking care of class 7 and 8. So that's girl in class 6 and some in class 5. And also in other regions, like imagine not nomadic areas and areas of difficulties where there is a rampant early marriage, we find a great problem because you can find a girl in class 4 who requires such kind of facilities, but we may not be able to provide. So also to ensure that things we move with the current trend And we've talked, my colleague here talked of the gadgets and of the ICT, the laptops in our schools. Now we are creating ICT labs in our primary schools so that when we have that hub in a primary school, community can access it. Our learners will be acquainted at the use of these items at quite an early age. So that some of those issues are the ones that we've taken into place to ensure that no child is marginalized at all. We also have places where we have a lot of infectious diseases that affect the children and perhaps keep them from school, affect their cognitive growth, the development growth, like worms. So together with the Ministry of Health, we come together and say that we do not want to have any child out of school, so we deworm them twice in a year. And when the deworming takes place, it is a cross-board for all the learners in primary schools from ECDE, from PP1, PP2 to class 8. So we partner with other ministries, and ours is a lot that we have done. Just to summarize, that we are not just quiet, but we are doing a lot as a ministry other than the policy to ensure. So these are some of the mitigation factors that we put in place to ensure that the retention and access and transition, because our policy again is a transition 100% from the PP2, PP1 to grade 1 for continuity. Otherwise, my appeal again is on 1420, which you do not know how to work on, is the 70 million against 23,000, which you do not know how to work on. And then the reduction of the sanitary pads money that now has kept some girls out of school. But otherwise, I want to say that as a ministry, we are moving on and ready and in support of other colleagues. We are able to move on. I'm being shown by the director representing the PS that I've overtaken too much time. I'm sorry, I've apologized for the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And Fred Hager next, I think. Yes. A minute or so. You've been directed by Daktari.
Special needs. This afternoon, Chair, I want to confirm that indeed the different institutions in the sector are responsive to the needs of learners with special needs in line with their different mandates. And therefore, they are not being left behind at all. As usual, sometimes, and you've heard previous speakers talk about resources, I do know that there are areas where we really could do with increased resourcing, especially considering that these learners are heavily dependent on learner support assistants in their schools, who they require to support them to learn. And also the issue of curriculum support material. However, they are being considered within the framework of what is available, and the CBC, I must say, Chair, is the most responsive system that we have seen that really supports the learners with special needs. There was a question that was asked by Senator Musrube, and I know the CEO, KNEC, partly spoke to it when she asked whether learners with special needs do not go to the university. And the answer is they do. I think in the KICD presentation, and as is captured in the basic education curriculum framework, there are those learners who are able to go through the age-based curriculum, and these learners include those with visual disabilities, those with hearing impairment, and even those who are physical impairments. All that is done is a bit of modification or adaptation to make sure that the curriculum does not present tasks that they are not able to undertake as a consequence of their limitation. And those ones indeed go all the way up to the university, depending on their abilities. But there are also other learners, Madam Chair, with especially certain severe degrees of disability who may not go through that curriculum. And I think KICD has developed a stage-based curriculum, and that is what the Senator, I think, was making reference to, where we have from foundations all the way up to vocational. But as the CEO had explained, at every level, assessment is done, and even those who start off from the foundations level are able to join the age-based curriculum based on the abilities and competencies that they have acquired at that level. So it is only those who are really not able to go through that other curriculum that probably proceed on this other side. So I want to allay the Senator's concerns that the opportunity is there, regardless of disability, for the learner to go up to the highest level possible, to nurture his or her full potential, because the structure and the opportunity is there. Finally, Chair, regarding legislative proposals, I think this has by and large been overtaken by events, because I'm privy to a bill that was introduced and I think has gone through the first reading at the Senate. That is the Special Needs Education Bill, number 44 of 2021. And in that bill, Chair, very significant provisions have been made, and today I will just want to support. We have made our submission in a memorandum as a ministry, and it is not in my place to guide whether that should go through as a standalone bill or whether some provisions could be merged with the Basic Education Act as an amendment. I know that is for you to decide, but there are certain provisions that will indeed really strengthen and promote the education services that this country is offering to learners with special needs, including in our proposal to made the establishment of certain institutions that would be very critical in the special needs subsector. That is the establishment of the Kenya Institute of Special Education and Kenya Institute for the Blind by law as institutions that will have specialized services to support special needs education. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we do better than that? Can we give a more hearty clap? Thank you for that rich information from Ministry of Education, Dr. Mary Gaturi, Nerea, and Fred Haga. We really appreciate. You know, sometimes words are very interesting, because I'm looking at the wording for this third question was the interface and fusion. Now, where did they get this fusion? You know, fusion is really deep, but that's what we have found here. So I think Rigera had some leakage when he was doing this paper. I really feel that that word fusion has been put into practice from what we hear. That's interlinking, because I know interagency is very important, and there were lots of delinking aspects within agencies where we didn't have this. So this seems very well in place, and we congratulate you with that. I want us to appreciate ourselves. I will shortly be handing over to Chair to wind up. It's been a long day, but a very fruitful day. We appreciate, we have learned, we have enjoyed. You have learned, we have learned. It's always a learning experience. We are happy with what we hear. We have capacitated us. This was a sensitization workshop, and you have sensitized us on CBC, and we should be able to really talk more about it and have certain members who ask questions answered, even directly at that level. We could just invite them to our committee and give these answers to them, or we could just get them to come as friends of the committee as we are discussing some of these issues. As you can see, Dr. Were is very happy with whatever answer she's been given. I think that is the best, and then let this information go out there and be well known. I want to end this session by doing 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you know that, yeah? So 4, let's start. Kudos to all of us, and I hand over to Chair to close this session. Have a good evening, even as we part ways and as we travel back to our various work sessions. Baki salama.
Okay, I'll take a very short time to just highlight the way forward from what has come out of this workshop. So, I know it's been a long day, and some of the issues that we've taken away or takeaways from here as way forward includes that we continuously engage our counterparts committee in the National Assembly. We are encouraging you to actually also engage the Standing Committee on Education, National Assembly, and the Senate, especially on budget. your dream. That is one thing I've learned today, and I'm sure my colleagues will take away, that the reason why teachers have got to go back and train is that they unfortunately found themselves at the center of a market that cannot employ them anymore. You have a training, you have a skill that does not have a market. So you have to be retooled to ensure that you become relevant. I don't know whether that is what the TSC representative was saying, that each and every teacher, as soon as is possible, should be able to go back and ensure that they are trained in CBC. Otherwise, come the future, it will be one of the things to look them out. Thank you, KNEC. You have really spoken, and I'll say for the first time in the history of this country, we shall witness a very good reporting in terms of what is happening in our curriculum. For many years, I think our country has been demonized. Nobody would want to take any individual from our country or any job because we, as you said, you are taking doctors who are not qualified because the A's or just computer A's, just not really the correct A's. You would find a school churning out several A's for no best reason. This is the way to go. And we encourage you, despite the fact that you are 3 months old. I sat there and said, KNEC has a person who has taken things running. Congratulations, you said, David. I love that you kept on saying, David. And I said, thank you, David, for taking the institution running. I'm sure that institution is going places. Let me thank each and every other stakeholder that came here and to make this workshop a success. Thank you, my colleagues, the senators. Thank you, the secretariat from the Senate. Thank you, all the staff that have accompanied our stakeholders. Thank you, the media people, the fourth state. Thank you for making this workshop a success. Let none of us relent in our roles. Whatever roles we've taken away from this workshop, let us not relent. I'm sure come the future, we shall come and stand here and actually praise ourselves. I want to say this has been a long day. Despite the fact that it has been a long day, all of us have got to sit down. Somebody said maybe because these are mothers. I want to say these are great, our education committee is made up of several mothers, but we have fathers as well. And you two for really sitting for long days, for a long day, long hours today, without even allowing you to take breaks, but then you are here for she's. So let me really thank you. And with those very many remarks then, I want to wish you well as you go back, travel well, chant the masses from our Heavenly Father, and I wish to declare this workshop officially closed. Thank you.
Chair, if you allow, we can have a closing prayer.
Oh, thank you. Please, Deputy Director.
Because we have a preacher, we will invite him. He is anointed next to give us a short prayer for Johnny Masses and blessing.
Thank you. Shall we pray? Our Father and our God, we are so grateful. And you will watch over our going out. We are so grateful for the presentations and the discussions that we had with the Senate Committee on Education. Everlasting God, may you help us and may you give us your wisdom, your courage and your confidence.